How much delay do you have?
3 seconds.
3 seconds? Oh shit. Okay.
What do you use delay on your stream?
Yeah, no, let's just hope that you're quick to end the stream. If we get a little bit too crazy.
Is that why people have delay?
Oh yeah, 100%. That's why I use delay. I use delay because if I because sometimes I'll scroll Twitter and I try to be smart about what I'm scrolling. Like I don't just like purely scroll like my feed or anything.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll like tweet something and I'll show my chat the tweet, and if somebody replies with a dick, I can just end the stream, bring it back up.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I don't get banned.
All right. Twitch chat. Bwipo might be joining within the next 20 to 30 minutes. He said. He said that he just got into a game, so maybe in 20 or 30 minutes. Voyboy's not joining us today. Voyboy had something come up, so it's just going to be me and Dom, and then whoever decides to join and just talk about stuff. This is going to be not scuffed, but it's just going to be sort of wing. We're just going to wing it. That's all that's going on. All right, where do you want to fucking dive in first?
I mean, where exactly did you start yesterday with HotShot, and like what did you like cover? Like what would you think would be most interesting to start at today?
I think we talked about the SoloQ. My memory serves correct. We started with SoloQ, and then we went into coaching and infrastructure problems, and then we circled back into SoloQ problems because Void joined at the end. So I think touching base, so like if you recall the stream that we had, or like you and Max had, and then I jumped in towards the end.
Yeah.
That talk's really good. Obviously, I think you and I can have it rather than you and Max, or something. Because I think that's obviously a big problem. But HotShot started off like I'm of the belief that the soft inters are what caused the hard inters, for instance, to exist.
Okay.
In the sense that someone hard ints because they believe that they're being soft inted. And that soft inting, I think, is like the worst thing because it's the one thing that Riot claims that they can't police. Or at least that's what I think Blastoise has said to me on stream like a year and a half ago, maybe? Or I don't know when I talked to him.
I think for me, I think the reason why hard inting has gotten worse and worse is like people like dabbled in it, like people tested the waters originally.
Yeah.
And because like, I don't necessarily think it was because they believe that they're getting soft inted. I think that it's just because they like certain people would just run it down, and then they're like, oh shit, like if I run it straight down mid, I get banned. If I pick Nunu, Ghost Cleanse, and I run straight down mid and I get like 5 reports and I die like 19 times in a row, then I'm going to get fucking banned. But then people just thought of like inting in more creative ways, like, oh, what happens if I just follow my jungle around the entire game? What happens if I pick Nunu and I take normal summoners, I take Flashing Knight as if I was playing mid lane Nunu, and then I just follow my jungle around and consume his buffs the entire game? Like, is that gonna get me banned? And people tried it and they didn't get banned, and then it just snowballed where it's like, oh, every time somebody fucks with me, like I know my way around the system. I'm just gonna follow this streamer around and piss him off like the entire time. I think the same thing kind of happened with like win trading, right? When you blatantly win traded before, and this happened like a lot in season 6, primarily because of scouting grounds in NA. That's why we had so much win trading.
Right.
Because your SoloQ rank got you into scouting grounds. So there was a lot of win trading, especially around the scouting grounds cutoff, and people would just like straight up disconnect, right? You'd play against a guy and then the person would just play the first 3 minutes. After they couldn't remake, they would just leave. And that became really easy to track. People are like, okay, well, now Riot is to the point where they know, okay, if these guys are matched against each other and then one guy leaves at 3 minutes into the game, 5 games in a row, that's not coincidence. But then what happens if people do more of like the other style, which, like the Dekar Tarzan situation? I'm not sure if you saw the clip, but that's like a very common way the games are win traded.
Okay.
Where people just like call out like a level 1, right? You're just like, okay, we're going to all go into like one team pings, because you know how SoloQ is, right? If one person is spam pinging a bush level 1, your whole team's just going to go there, right? Like, most people are just willing to like commit to the invade. I see this happen in fucking Korean SoloQ. This happens all the time in NA SoloQ. So you'll just tell your team like, hey guys, let's invade through topside Tribush. Like, let's say you're blue, let's invade through topside Tribush. This is like a really unique place. People aren't going to go there.
Yeah.
And as long as the person you're win trading to tells his whole team to get into that bush, 3 kills level 1. and then you play the game out normally, and in high elo, it doesn't take that much to actually swing a game. So it's become like more and more undetectable. So people have just gotten smarter and adapted to the system. And I think that this has gone through like every facet of game ruining to the point where like people just have it down to the T. Like the people that know how to win trade just know how to fucking win trade. Like I'm in a fucking Discord with a bunch of psychopaths, and I've talked to them about it before. And there's people that have win traded like 50 plus games, like season 8, and they didn't get in trouble once because of like the way that they manipulated the system.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean that's like kind of my perception of why it got worse and worse.
So what is even like this is where what me and Hotshot were. I mean, we didn't touch on this topic specifically. I think having Boy here would have been really good for this. I mean, in that aspect, how does Riot can't fight that?
Yeah, Riot can't fight that, but what they can fight is monitoring high elo and being smarter about being able to detect like obvious griefers, right? Like there's the win trading that's super hard to detect, right? But then there's the win trading where like people are repeatedly dying in the same ways 1v1 to like random. It's like, oh, why did the 80 carry roam top here 5 times in a row, 5 games in a row, and feed the same kill to the same player? It's like it's obvious, and like that's the point where I feel like they could put more effort in. The same thing goes for like target inting, right? I made a video on win trading and target inting that has about 900,000 views on YouTube, and I exposed these people for win trading blatantly in games. Like I exposed them for boosting, swapping summoners, what champions were being played. It's a Fizz 1 trick. He starts playing Pantheon, different summoners. He's doing with another guy. They're trying to like duo to climb because they're doing a boost together. The boost goes wrong. They start losing games in Diamond 2 because these boosters fucking suck ass at the game anyway. So then they start win trading in my games, and you see them playing against each other, picking weird champions. Guy that's playing Pantheon suddenly drops Pantheon, plays something else. And I expose it completely in a video. It's a 20-minute video. And those two players are still playing the game to this day with the same accounts. Like there's nothing that can be done if they're not going to give like any type of insight into content creators. Like if I'm going to go through that type of bullshit and I'm going to fucking like sit for 5 hours, get win. And this was all in the same stream. This was a 5-hour span where I'm just getting griefed by these people. And I'm just going to do that for hours, and I'm going to compile the footage. I'm going to tell my editor how to edit it. I'm going to tell them every single thing that happens. We're going to create a good video, and they won't even like take any interest into ban the guy. I even sent this video to Riot. The person got 14-day ban, didn't even get a perma. And he's just back playing to this day, doing the same shit. Like there just needs to be some attention on what's happening. Like there needs to be a team of people that are monitoring high and low at all times.
All right. So one of the things that I said to Blastoise, I think a year and a half ago when I had him in the call, is I suggested making a toxicity skin line or an anti-toxicity skin line, because I think the community would pay money for the skins, and then you use that skin line money, which then also has to be funneled to the artists that design the skins and whatnot, and whoever implements the skins onto the Rift. Okay, if there's an actual skin line that is used to fund this team of people. Originally, the team has to have however many members, right? I don't think... I'm actually really curious how many games are going on at any given time, D4 or above. Like, at any given point. Yeah, how many games?
I would think it would have to be, like, on NA, I feel like it would have to be under 20. Like,
Diamond or above?
Diamond or above, yeah. We don't have, like... I wait in 5-minute queues for Diamond 2 games.
Okay. So all right, I would have thought there would be more than that. So, and the thing that I used as an example was back on IC Cup. I don't know if you know about IC Cup for Warcraft or StarCraft, but it was a private server, and basically there was moderators that were on, sort of like game masters in World of Warcraft. And
yeah, so like player mods,
right?
Or player, okay, yeah.
And apparently, these handful of people, less than half a dozen, right, that were online at any given time, could apparently miraculously handle reports of abuse and other things that were just all happening on the ladder. And what ends up happening is eventually the fear of the punishment helps contain the problem in itself, because people they become afraid to even try because they're aware of the punishment that can come. And when that starts happening, then the team can actually get dialed back in size. And then you need less people, which then means that you need less resources to keep funding them, because eventually it polices itself just by the fear that it exists. Sort of like police. Or cameras in stores, right? I mean, I think it follows a pretty similar fucking logic.
Yep.
And I think I can't remember what Blastoise's answer was to that at the time. But I'm not sure. Why can't a skin line be created and funded by the community, for each region, even, right? To have, or, yeah, I mean, it doesn't even need to be each region. You could have it centralized in NA and have the team handle all the regions if there's enough people. If the reports all just get sent and then they, whatever. And I would assume that you would need probably high, like sort of like how some of the playtesters are high MMR, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean they're like X high MMR. Normally the way it goes is like the playtesters are like former pros and things like that,
so,
and then they just eventually like
if
they don't play
you
the game anymore.
If you have people like that basically fulfill the role, then it probably becomes much more easy to discern whether or not it's happening. Maybe Riot's counter argument is that it's not fair for all the other MMRs like Platinum, Gold, and blah blah blah. These MMRs aren't what's propping up the esports and the influencers and all this, like the stuff that's always in the limelight, right? Like always being seen and whatnot, and that's sort of festering and amplifying the toxicity and the negativity and everything that's happening because it's always in the limelight. Not to say that there isn't corruption and fucked up shit happening in like Platinum or Gold or Silver and Bronze and Inters there and yada yada yada. There is. But I think that when we're talking about an MMR that is supposed to be on the cusp of like pro play and esports and all this other stuff, I think that there should be more protection for it. And I've been very vocal about that for years.
100%. But it's like Riot just doesn't want to do this thing. And this is like their main reasoning that they've always given for these problems is they don't want to make it look like they are catering more to pro players or catering more to high low. They want to make it seem like everyone has the same experience. But realistically, the fact that there's so many less players, there's so much less players in high elo than low elo means that it's so much more abusable in high elo than low elo. Like if you get sniped or if you get somebody inting you in silver, right? You wait 2 minutes, you queue up, it's almost impossible for you to get the same player again. It's never going to happen again. So But the problem is in high rated games is like I don't know if you ever saw the series. Did you ever see the Legend of Dot Cutie's YouTube video?
Yes, the Teemo or the Anivia guy who would wall.
Yes,
yes.
So he was Teemo counter. So that was actually a really great example of why content creators have gotten more and more frustrated. Because over time, like if you go back and watch that series, Cutie and I got inted for 8 hours straight by the same player. 8 hours straight by the same player, no ban, right? Ported him every game, never got banned. He trolled us with Teemo support, Katarina support. He double jungled, ran it straight down with AFK in their base with Teemo invisible. He played Anivia on our team, walled off like ourselves over and over again, 7-8 hours straight. And if you go back in that video and you just see the way that we're acting, like I'm known as like a complainer now, right? It's like, oh, Dom's just like whining about like the state of SoloQ all the time. Like he's just always whining about SoloQ. That's how people view me as. So anything I say is just going to be immediately discredited. Go watch how we handled getting inted for 7-8 hours in a row 4 or 5 years ago. And you'll see that our attitude was drastically different. Like we were trying to make it into content. We were trying to be funny about it. We were joking around. Like we're having a good time. Like our other teammates were just laughing with them. We were like, oh man, poor Patrick Brown. He's getting inted, bro. He's all about the PMA. He's a pillar of our community. And then you see, it's like, the thing is, after a while, it stops being content and it starts being fucking boring. Like it's really hard to get motivated to continue to be like an energetic and happy streamer when you're getting inted. And then it's like, and every streamer right now is being accused of the same things. Like obviously there's people that have very, very high amounts of like discipline and that are like really well mannered regardless. So like Shifter, for example, is cited as being that. For a while, Voyboy was cited as being that, even though recently there was a video on the top of Reddit where people are saying that he's like part of the fucking problem, or he's in the video as like, oh, like they're trying to show that he's inting games with Ezreal or whatever that video was trying to portray, which is obviously incorrect, but it's a great way to just snowball things against content creators. Is out of context clips. It's like one of the best ways to like cancel somebody, etc. And even Voyboy's the one that made the video. It's just the amount of frustration that goes into like streaming right now is just not worth it. And it reflects poorly on the streamers. And then it makes people think that streamers are the problem, where we have evidence, if you go back far enough, to show that streamers actually used to take this with a grain of salt and have a positive attitude towards these types of problems. But over time and over like seeing it happen over and over again with no punishment, it just gets old. And now everyone's attitude is shit.
Right.
It didn't go the other way around, which is the narrative that's trying to be spun with all these Reddit threads recently.
Right. So I don't I know that Riot responded to Voiboy yesterday, right? Or was it a non-response? I didn't watch the video. I saw two Reddit threads.
Okay, so it was a response, and they said, "Hey, Voiboy, we hear you, brother." That was pretty much it.
Okay.
So they acknowledged that he said what he said.
So yeah, I really hope something does stem from it, because I don't think there's ever been a point in and correct me if I'm wrong, because you've been around a lot longer than me, as well as I think that you pay attention to a lot more of the traffic that happens around like drama and whatnot, maybe surrounding these topics. I don't think there's ever been a point where so many people were united against something that's happening, like almost like it's reaching a boiling point.
There was like a couple instances of it. I'd say positional Q last year was a pretty big thing.
Dynamic Q.
No, positional Q.
What the fuck was that?
Positional.
Oh, Korea didn't have it, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe Korea didn't. So positional ranks.
Yeah.
Where everyone had a specific rank per rating, and what would happen was like you only lost 3 LP if you dodge, right? And you'd only lose 3 LP for your main role if you played an off role. So every time you got like an off role, everyone would just troll. It's like, oh, you got an off role? Okay, first time like Tristana support, and then you just lose, and it's like, oh, that's the same LP I would have lost if I dodged, so who fucking cares anyway? You know,
right.
Your MMR in the same way. So that was like a time where the community was pretty united against it. And then I guess the other time would be dynamic queue, because the queue times were absurd. I had 75-minute queues on stream legitimately in Challenger in season 6. So those are the only 2 times that have been close to it. Yeah, 75 minutes on stream. I actually had a 2-hour queue on stream. I made a YouTube video out of it.
So do you know why there used to be a thing that used to actually help contain toxicity to an extent, right? Wasn't it Tribunal?
Tribunal, yes.
What the hell? Do you know why that was removed? Because that was removed, I think, before I even started playing League.
I have no idea. I know. I got punished in the Tribunal allegedly.
Oh no!
I got punished in the Tribunal allegedly on an account that I didn't actually play on in season 2, and they used it against me. But I mean, I think that it was like the thing about the Tribunal is it was only based off chat logs. They didn't give you like a replay of the game.
They didn't have replays,
watch,
then, right?
Yeah, they didn't have replays. Okay. So it's the same type of bullshit where it's like, okay, so they just automated the system. Now, the only problem here, I think, with the automation is I really dislike the idea of like you getting restrictions based on spam. Like there's like a certain amount of lines that you type. You type over 35 lines in a game. It doesn't matter if somebody's like fucking typing to you the whole time. If you type a certain amount of lines, doesn't matter if you're saying bad words, doesn't matter what you're saying. You can get, if you get a report, you will get some type of punishment. I think that that's fucking weird. Yeah. Whereas the Tribunal would kind of protect against that in a way, because people could actually read the nature of the conversation. They could read what the other person was typing to you, where now you only get your own logs. Like if you get chat restricted, you only get your own logs. It's like if somebody's telling me to kill myself and I'm explaining to them why I pathed the way I did, like I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Like, I don't think that I'm in the wrong or I deserve a restriction based off that. So there's some problems I have with that, but like the main problem of the actual gameplay being trolled is just gone.
So what? I mean, all right. So obviously, I already suggested the anti-toxicity skin line. What would be your idea?
Well, like I would just think that there would need to be a team of people, like I said earlier, just monitoring high elo. So you have however many streamers do you have like in League that are 1K viewers plus, or like however many games that you have that are maybe like Diamond 2 plus. Maybe you wouldn't go as low as Diamond 4. Maybe you go like Diamond 1 plus, and you have people monitor those games and just take out people that are obviously trolling, and you escalate the reports from influencers and pro players over
and obviously
general community.
If there's false flags coming from these influencers and these pro players, they should have those privileges stripped.
Sure.
Because that's an abuse of power, like corruption within cops or something.
The thing is, like, you were a part of LPP last year, right?
I'm still a part of it.
Okay, yeah, but you were a part of it when it started. Okay, so we had a channel. I don't know if you ever checked the channel, but you remember the channel that we had, which was like
Ask Riot.
No, there was one that was about player behavior. There was an LPP channel about player behavior.
Don't get in trouble. Are we under ND? You know what I mean?
No.
Okay.
No. This is like very widely known thing. I mean, so we had this channel. I'm not sure how much you followed it, but there was a channel that was regarding player behavior where players could escalate reports to Riot when you were getting targeted into the game. This was like the thing that was supposed to be
Was
the
this the
way
new?
that
Was this the Night Blue
yes,
3
this
thing?
is the Night Blue thing. Yes, this is the Night Blue thing.
Okay.
So pretty much what happened was we had this medium to, you know, handle these types of situations.
Yeah.
And then Night Blue said that he was gonna report Nubrak and get this guy banned.
Dude, that was the most cringe fucking, like, him saying he was gonna get the report and the follow. It was like, holy fucking shit. I don't know. That was so I couldn't watch it. It was like, Jesus Christ.
Like, you mean because of the way that Night
The
Blue
way that
went about
he
it?
handled him, yeah, the way that he handled himself was so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it was like over the top. It was
yes.
way over the top. Like, obviously, it's not like we have all the power, like we get you fucking banned. That's not what it was anyway.
Right.
All it was escalated reports. So it's like if we sent a report about like a player, they would look into it faster than they would look into another player. It's not like we could get you banned like more, like if we said something, they instantly got banned. It was never like that. But because he made it seem like that, Riot got scared at the community backlash and they just stripped us of the system. And as soon as the system was stripped, it's just like you deal with the same bullshit over and over again. So, I mean, I think that was just a great way to handle it. Was escalating our reports. There were way less people
because
hard trolling high low.
Right. There's also LPP in every region, I think. I know that there's EU. I know that there's KR. I know about NA. I don't know about some of the smaller regions. Perhaps they wouldn't have it, which this creates an outcry, right? From people that don't have it. They think that it's unfair. Like if OC doesn't have an LPP, which I don't. I think OC is affiliated with NA LPP, right?
Yeah, I think it's that's what.
Okay,
I think too, yeah.
So obviously there's going to be people, and I know that one of Riot's responses to maybe my idea about a skin line or your idea or my idea about policing, you know, Diamond Plus, etc., by having a team, is that streamers and influencers do not make up the majority of the cash cow, right? Like the casual silent majority does. And thus high MMR shouldn't get extra catering because we actually don't matter in the grand scheme of things. But I would think that if you look at other game titles that have seen the influencers and the streamers die out and then see what happens to the game, that's not totally true. Because how many unique people are coming through to our streams? I mean, when we're doing co-streams, we're talking six-figure numbers of unique viewers, like cycling through throughout the duration of a stream. There's a lot of fucking people that are obviously paying attention, and then word of mouth spreads. And so how much of the silent majority is actually paying attention to what's happening? I don't know. They would probably say they have data on this. I'm not, you know?
Sure, they have data on this, but I mean, it goes back to, like, I think Mark Merrill really outed the perception of what influencers are to Riot when he had that conversation with me, the famous, like, the famous tweet where he blocked me and everything, and then he said that, you know, congrats on you know, having a career based off a free game that we made. Like, they don't give a fuck about content creators. Like, they don't understand it the same way other companies do. Like, when you look at Epic, for example, they did the Fortnite push and they marketed it to a bunch of the streamers and they added streamer loot in game way before. So Fortnite came out and the same year they added loot that you could watch or that you could get from watching streamers to their game. And Riot just did it in season 9 after like 9 years of being a company. It just shows that they have two different mentalities about what makes a game big. Like, Riot doesn't think that streamers are important in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, I mean, it was evidenced by the way that he tweeted at me, you know, I'm his little bitch. Like, that's what he thinks, like, which is fine. I mean, I obviously I can't say I'm 100% right or wrong on this. Like, we could not fucking matter. Like, maybe we aren't important at all to the grand scheme of things. But I personally think from doing from doing a lot of sponsorships myself, the most authentic sponsorship you can get is when somebody is not being paid to play your game and they're using things that you are selling in game. So if I'm doing a fucking stream, or like when Broxa did a stream 3 days ago and he's like, hey, I'm playing only FPX Lee Sin today. Like, I think that is the best fucking ad for FPX Lee Sin that you could get.
Yeah, it is. By far.
And they just don't understand that, like, yeah, maybe directly I'm not buying fucking $50 million worth of fucking skins, but I could maybe have, like, I could maybe influence 1,000 people or 2,000 people to buy a $5
to spend
skin.
the money. Right. So I agree with you in that the best sponsorships are the ones where you create a product that's so good that you make people want to do it for free. And if you want to sponsor them on top, that's obviously an added bonus for them. Because obviously there's lots of content creators that won't even accept sponsorships that they don't like, or that they don't believe in, or they don't want to promote. I obviously didn't see the Mark Merrill thing. I don't know your stance on this. I am grateful towards Riot in many ways, but I don't know your stance on it entirely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for like the creation of the game and that type of stuff, and like the creation of LCS and the esports and things like that. But I also think that like I think that it should go both ways. That's my take. It's like they should also be grateful to people like Dyrus, for example, who couldn't even get a Valorant key. It's like, really, dude, this guy did so much for Riot Games. Like, he did so much. Maybe not. Yeah. Yes, he streamed so many hours. There's so many people that got into League because they were fans of Dyrus. But like, they don't view him as any. It's like, oh, you're not playing our game anymore? Well, fuck you, bro. Don't even get a Valorant key. He had to get one from watching streams and getting a drop. Like, I don't know. I think that it should be reciprocated in some way.
Sorry, I was coughing. Hold on one sec.
All good.
Okay. Fucking SoloQ.
Wait, do you have a mask on?
No, I don't. No.
Oh my god, I'm gonna get fucking sick, bro. What the
hell? Yeah, it's the fucking Corona monkey W.
You're just gonna fucking cough while I'm in the call like this? Oh my god.
And so in terms of NA, you've played in EU. You were supposed to come to Korea, but you couldn't, right? Because of the Corona thing.
I've played in Korea in season 2.
Okay. So my experiences in KR is there are win traders that exist at certain points. They're a lot more vocal. I mean, you can see the stuff from the streams that ends up happening too. It's not like Korea is a saint region by any means. And then there's Europe, which obviously is very vocal. I think another problem with North America is the safe space mentality that some players can have. They only want a one trick. They only want to play their role. And if they don't do that, then they're going to grief you or they're going to do something else. And I think that's a lot more prevalent in NA than it is in any other region. And I think that's something that also HotShot and I were talking about yesterday, that I don't know how the fuck you remedy that or fix that, because it's like this really weird outlier that it seems so weird. Like, I'm not trying to out him or anything. Do you know the support player, the Tank Man or something? He would only play like Sona?
Yeah, Sona and
right.
Janna.
So he would only play 2 champions, but I remember seeing a lot of people didn't enjoy when he would be in the game or something, even though he's high MMR or something would end up going on. Now I don't think I've ever talked with the guy or interacted with him, so I can't say anything. But that's like a 2-trick, right? And then there's lots of 1-tricks, and it's not to say that 1-tricks don't exist in Europe or Korea or Ionia server, which is China's main server, etc. I think they exist in a different manner. And it seems like 1-tricks in North America get labeled a lot more harsh than in other regions. And I don't know your take on this.
Yeah, like in North America, it's pretty looked down upon, but it's mainly just the attitude of the 1-tricks. Like, because we have so many streamers, it's easier for them to be targeted and banned out. And their behavior when they're banned out, like, pisses people off, right? Like, if you're a 1-trick, if
your 1-trick gets banned, you should dodge.
Yes. I think if you are a 1-trick and you get banned out, like, you are no longer that player. You are if the Tank Man gets banned out on Yuumi and Sona, and he's ranked 3 at the time, now he's like a Diamond 2 player taking up a rank 3 spot in the lobby, and it just skews the team the MMR so far against us that it makes it almost impossible to win. So the fact that like the people that are 1-tricks just play their secondary champion that's like 20% win rate and just run it down on you if they lose, and then you're forced to dodge instead of them. Like, they'll do this whole dodge baiting bullshit where they'll be like, all right, dude, the Tank Man has been banned out on Sona and Yuumi, and he has locked in Thresh. There's 5 seconds left in the lobby. Who the fuck is going to dodge? Like, is it going to be you or no? And they're just going to be fucking staring at you right in your fucking face like, yeah, no, I'm not dodging you, little fucking pussy. Like, I'm going to be here this whole goddamn time. And you're sitting there, you're like, please, man, please dodge. Like, you got to do it for me. And then normally I'm the one that gets got. I'm like, you know what, dude? He's too much of a psychopath, dude. I'm just exiting the lobby. Like, it's okay. You fucking win, dude. Like, I don't want to see the Tank Man Thresh, not for 30 minutes. Like, it's not worth my time. So my problem is like this stuff happens all the time, and then one tricks just get like this hate because it's like, please man, just fucking dodge. And the reason that I think people are less inclined to dodge is because of the queue times that we have in North America. It's like if this guy waited 30 minutes for a game, it's like at that point he'd rather just run it down than fucking dodge.
Why are the queue times actually so long? Because I've seen stuff that's so weird. I remember there was a video that was posted on YouTube where a guy had multiple streamers open, like the tabs.
Mm-hmm.
They were all queuing at once in the same MMR, and there was no game found.
I have no idea. I think it's just we have less players. Like when you look at it, so I just have an account. Okay, so bottom LP. So let's say master LP, right? Like so master tier. In NA, which is so Grandmaster is actually like close to 0 LP. I think it's like 30 LP now. Yeah. So, it's actually lower than that. We have Grandmaster players that are like 20 LP now. Okay, so let's say Grandmaster in NA, we only have 1,000 players roughly, maybe like 1,100, maybe like 1,150 players that are above Diamond 1 right now, currently on the ladder. And when you take a server like Europe, and you look at it and you go 10 pages deep. So if I go to the leaderboards, I'm just going to do this real time just to make sure that we're getting accurate numbers. So you look at Europe and you go 10 pages deep. You are at roughly, as soon as it loads, you are at like 250 LP. Okay. And to get down to 0 LP, you need to be like, let's try page 25 and see if we're still in master tier. Okay. So you have 2,500 plus players in Europe above master tier. So we have like 1,000. They have 2,500. So there's just so many more people that like play the game and actually like grind ranked in those regions than here, that we just don't have like the player base to support games. And because what they did originally was they tried opening up the ladder, but you would just get the most ridiculous games. Like I have screenshots from season 7, season 6, when I would play only challenger games on stream, where I would be getting games of full like Diamond 4 lobbies if I queued. It would be like me and a bunch of Diamond 4s versus a bunch of like Diamond 3s and Diamond 2s, and that would be the fucking game that was matched. So it's really weird because when that happened, all the players were like, "Fuck it, like we don't want to fucking play in this. Like just fix it and then we'll play again." Yeah. But then they fixed it, and then the queue times were so long that it's like people didn't even want to waste their time sitting in queues to play the game. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know how you fix that problem. Our region is just doesn't have as many players.
Oh, you know what? So, someone just said something in chat, because I imagine that this is more prevalent in North America than maybe some other regions, is that Smurfs aren't even accounted in. So if NA only has 1,000 people above Master, then how many of those are multiple accounts? Like, is it really? There's only like 700 unique people or something?
Yeah, probably. I mean, you look at players like Tarzan has 3 accounts in Challenger right now, right? You have the Aurelian Soul guy who has multiple accounts in Challenger. You have Johnson who had 4 accounts in Challenger. Like, yeah, I mean, there's a chance that it's maybe like only 600 unique people. I mean, I remember when I haven't grinded the ladder since season 9, right? Like, so this season I haven't grinded the ladder enough to really like tell you what's going on. I assume it's just season 9 2.0. I stopped grinding mid season 9, but in season 8 I had 4 Grandmaster accounts and 1 Challenger account. And in season 6, I used to play with Cutie. He had 4 Challenger accounts and I had 3 Challenger accounts. And that was just between both of us. And I think Dyrus had 2 Challenger accounts. And that was like our little like click right there. We're occupying 5% of the entire ladder just with our accounts. Like, that's just what it was. So I think that there just aren't that many people that play the game.
Jesus Christ. And then obviously there's also some players that are going to be above Master and Grandmaster, Challenger, etc. that are also playing from other regions in ping, like from Latin America and from South America.
Yep.
So, holy shit. When did it get this bad? Was it always this low? Because this looks like it's headed towards OCE territory.
I don't know when it got this bad. I really don't. I don't know if it's always been a thing. I know in season 5 I was getting 20-minute queues even in like low master on my Smurf. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure when it got this bad. It could have just always been this bad, and I just didn't really know.
Do you know what the ping is from South America to NA?
It depends on where you are, but if you're like, if you're in Central America, if you're in Mexico, which is obviously technically still North America, but Mexico is like only like 50, 60 ping. Okay. So a lot of the teams, like when the before the regions merged in Latin America, the Latin American North region, all those players played on our server. So that's about 8 teams, and most of the players were Master Plus. Like there was like the random player that maybe wasn't Master Plus on the like in that region, but most of the players were Master Plus. So that's like another 50 players added to the ladder. It's like Seiya and Adi and all these players.
For fuck's sake. I didn't know the player pool was being affected that much, because people are in chat writing about Europe, and I know that Korea, the queue times are so fast. They're just so quick because everyone's fucking playing.
Yeah.
So I guess
I mean, I played a Diamond 2 account today on stream. I had a 7-minute queue. That's a Diamond 2 account. It's 7 minutes for a Diamond 2 game. And this was like at 9 a.m. It wasn't like super, super early in the morning.
So 9 a.m. Pacific, right? You're Pacific?
Yeah, 9 a.m. Pacific, yes. So like
it's
Eastern,
12.
it's like noon.
Yeah, noon. Holy fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me see really quick if Bwipo wants to come in, because I wanted to talk about SoloQ centric stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I told you, but I prefer not to talk to him after the finals performance. So.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to be seen with him that much either. But
okay. If he can like keep the distance and at least not use his cam, I would feel more comfortable.
Oh my god!
I love Bwipo.
He asked for 15 more minutes.
Ask him if we can wait 6 more months. Actually.
Jesus Christ. All right, hold on. What the hell? All right, let's see. Wait, why did your cam get small? What?
I don't fucking know.
Oh, okay, I fixed it. All right. Okay, Jesus Christ. And then I don't even fuck. What did you think of HotShot's idea of incentive to play the ladder more?
I think the biggest incentive to play the ladder more was if they increased the quality of the games by doing the other methods. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know Revenge tweeted something where like
an advocate of voice comms?
Yes, 100%, 1000%. It's so crazy to me that voice comms are not involved in a game like League. When they came out with Valorant, Valorant is in beta. It has voice comms. Like, I don't understand why you don't need voice comms in League. Yeah, like it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Do you think so? Like one of my fears, for like obviously I play in Korea and I stream from Korea. But in NA, one of my fears would be the psychopaths that would not care about spending a week, if they're actually legitimately challenger level, to rank up Smurfs or buy Smurfs, etc. Get into a streamer's game on voice comms and then just start screaming the N-word over and over.
I mean, you just mute. Like, I don't think that's bannable on Twitch unless you allow it to happen. If you take action against it, if you're playing a game and because it happens in CS:GO, right?
Well, it's happened to some Twitch streamers though, right?
I feel like if you're taking an active stance against it, you just join a game. Like, I'm not trying to promote any type of racism in my own stream. Right. I join a game. Some guy randomly uses the open mic and says the N-word. And I've actually been streaming. I streamed Dota for a little bit, and somebody did this once, and I just insta-muted the person. I never had a problem there. Okay. I think that it's like if you're allowing it to go on, or you're like, laughing about it and like stuff like that. If I'm just trying to play the game and some dude joins my lobby and says, I mean, it's the same thing in Valorant, right? Like, people say the N-word in Valorant. I've seen it. I've heard it on streams. Yeah. And people just mute the person, just go next. Like,
nothing happens.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that Twitch would have to just like understand that. Yeah, there's gonna be some level of trolling, but like, what are you supposed to do, man? Like, imagine you're IRL streaming and some guy runs up behind you and yells it. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, oh, I'm sorry, I just can never leave my house again. I can't interact with other people like in public. Like,
that's happened though, right? You've seen some of the live stream fail instances. Like, that's what's really weird.
I've seen live stream fail instances. I haven't seen somebody get banned for being in public and somebody else saying the N-word and them like walking away or trying to like prevent it from happening.
I saw, so there's apparently another word that's actually bannable, and I would never have expected it to be bannable. Let me write it to you. Hold on one second. No, I'm gonna write it and then delete it. 1 sec.
Okay.
Apparently, that is TOS.
Oh my god! Don't call me that, LS.
But what the fuck? How is that TOS? I have no fucking idea. I don't know what causes it to be. But I did see someone get banned for a bypasser saying that to someone.
Yeah, the word was Morellonomicon. That's what I typed in. This guy has really lost it. This guy is crazy.
Holy fucking shit. Holy fuck. Oh my god.
What the hell?
All right, so we're waiting for Bwipo right now. So we'll finish up the SoloQ thing with him because I know that he specifically wanted to talk about like influencers and streamers in regards to SoloQ, and something that he thinks is actually bad that we're all a part of, or not all of us, but sometimes it happens and it's problematic. And I think he's even referring to like high elo players that stream that aren't necessarily streamers. So we'll just wait for that, and then I guess we can dive into the coaching part. That we talked about like 3 weeks ago,
like with roster formation, general managers, things like that. Or
yeah. Like what is actually going on, or like because we talked about it with, or I talked about it with HotShot yesterday. I talked about it with you 3 weeks ago. The same exact thing I talked about with HotShot, or the same exact thing that I talked about with you, talked about with HotShot, talked about it with many other people on stream over the course of the last couple of weeks, even some pro players. I've had on stream to talk about the issue. And the roster shuffle of Stavs, I think, was the most eyebrow raising of anything that happened in the offseason. I mean, I don't know your take on that specifically. But yeah, we can just talk about that after we talk to Bwipo.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can bring it up now. I mean, so the interesting thing is I actually talked to Jack yesterday.
Jack?
C9 Jack.
Oh, okay.
C9.
Okay.
Yeah, so I talked to Jack about it, and one of the things that you agreed with me on before was that this idea that like random people are going to be excellent coaches or people that have, general manager experience in athletics will just suddenly be able to transfer that over like 1-to-1 to League of Legends is so crazy to me and to a bunch of other people. I mean, Jack pretty much exclusively hires only former pro players or people that have worked within the scene for years in order to coach, right? So Jack's team, like Westrise, former NA pro player, Rapid Star, Rainover, and Reapered, like that's pretty much his coaching staff. So the idea that like these teams are being put together and they're not consulting with the people that know the game the most is crazy to me. Like that, you have GMs that are making the final decisions themselves without taking in data from everyone else or getting the opinions of the players, the opinions of the coaches, etc. I feel like that's the best way to develop good rosters is like discussing things with the players and the coaches that were former players.
Yeah. I think it's I think also when there's roster moves that lots of people see this is where it gets weird, where I gotta err on the side of caution. With
you're CLG, man. You gotta watch out.
I gotta err on the side of caution here.
Okay.
So
just say it. Crown was fucking bad. Just say it, Layla.
Oh no, I've said this several times on stream. After his departure, I dissented against when they asked me about him. I basically I said go into his pro view, and I said look at him in Korean SoloQ games because I played against him in Korean SoloQ. And I was not adamant, but I was like, he's not the import slot. Like he can probably still play, but not the import slot. Not the money that must be given to him, right? Because his titles,
former world champion,
right.
etc.
But achievements equal achievements equal worth, not actual skill. It has nothing to do with your actual skill anymore. I mean, we wouldn't look at someone from season 3 or season 4 and say, "Wow, they're a fucking god now." That's just obnoxious. So there was obviously a lot of roster moves that I was very vocal that I thought was very bizarre that happened, like just in the offseason across globally. LCK, LEC, LCS, whatever. And I think that what I talked about with HotShot is that a lot of the people who make these decisions will either do so at the opinion of players that are already on the team, or they'll do it based on the opinion of people who can't discern differences between players. And that's a really big problem. So, what the fuck? Like,
well, I think that this is kind of lost on the idea that like you get a really big name player. How much is that going to actually increase the branding of your team? Like, and I think that that's a huge misconception is people think, oh, I get Huni on my team. He's massively popular. He's going to be bringing like all these fans to the team. It's just not like that anymore. Like there aren't that many specific, like the thing is if you're hot in the moment, you're going to have a lot of fans. The second you have like 6 months where you're not so good, or 6 months where you don't win, or a year where you just playing on a mediocre team, your popularity and your like worth as an influencer, even though you're a pro player, like your influence goes down so much that it's not worth paying these players. It's not like you like Huni joins Dignitas and now there's a million more Dignitas fans. Like no one really cares that much anymore. And I think that that's where they have this misconception of getting these former world champions or former world finalists, etc. People that have won in Korea, people that have won in EU, etc. Like that doesn't have the same effect that it used to. Like back in season 4, getting somebody like Piglet meant that he was instantly getting 30K viewers, right? Like even though they had that weird season on SKT, the fact that he was a former world championship, just a former world champion, the way that the market just was back then, the excitement, the idolization of like Korea at the time, all those things meant that you were getting actually a lot for your money in terms of branding. Because the landscape of things changed, those players are not worth what they used to be worth.
Right, and so I just want to clarify for people listening if they can't discern. You're speaking specifically not that people can't still have that effect. It's that if too much time passes, they lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because,
and you see it the same way in streaming, right? Like Tobias Fate was like one of the biggest NA streamers.
Wasn't he like a 10K? Hold on.
He was like a 15 to 20K Andy for a little bit.
Okay. Bwipo's ready. You ready? I'll just drop him in. Okay. All right. Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Hey, you weren't watching the stream like 15 minutes ago by any chance, right?
Oh, thanks for the heads up.
Okay, good.
Just hold the climb under for 6 months.
Holy shit! He heard it, chat. We're fucking out. I was just reading LS's chat. They told me to say that shit. These motherfuckers, they're ruthless. I don't know what's wrong with them.
All good. I don't really mind. Honestly, you weren't wrong. Like it was pretty disturbing. It was deeply disturbing, more so for me than anybody else, I believe, and that's like the irony of it all, I believe. But
you didn't know that you didn't play well until they told you. Be honest. You had to read the Reddit thread, and then you're like, now I get it.
I agree. I didn't know I got PayPal until I opened my phone. So
yeah. I'm just surprised your salaries are that low in EU that it was literally just 1 cent that they sent you and you're just willing to just run it down like that. That's crazy.
Good times. Good times.
All right, Bwipo, what did you want to go into? I know you messaged me before the stream.
Right. So I didn't follow everything religiously. So again, I'm not 100% sure if people have mentioned this, but from my perspective, something that I feel like has gone missing in current day and age SoloQ culture, if you will, is that people refuse to take responsibility. Under every circumstance imaginable, they do not want to take responsibility. And this is the fun fact. I was watching your stream today, Dom, actually. And I don't usually watch your stream, don't hate me, but I just...
That's fine.
It's not something I used to in the past, but nowadays, I don't really. And in the 45 minutes I was watching your stream, you literally admitted that I'm not taking blame unless it's 100% my fault.
Yep.
Unless it's 100% my fault, I'm not taking blame. And I feel like that's something that's actually really, really bad for the community, right? Because every single SoloQ player doing this just means what ends up happening is that people blame each other, even when they could have done something. And I'm not saying it was their fault. I'm not saying that they have to take responsibility. And I'm not saying that can't be your initial reaction. What bothers me is the fact that no one wants to take that responsibility. And it's not like influential people, influencers, streamers, high-elo players are behaving in a way where this is what is encouraged. Does that make any sense?
I think that the point that's being lost, it's not that I don't want to take responsibility. It's just that I don't want to accept the person flaming me for fucking like 10, 15 minutes in the chat to themselves. Like I can take my own personal responsibility and like understand things myself. But like in terms of like being able to sit in the game and be like, oh yeah, dude, that was 100% my fault. Like I should oh man, I should have just done this, and this. When it's like I see the mistakes that are being made in lanes, it's like I think everyone should be more like willing to handle their own shit before they fucking lash out against everyone else. That's
I don't disagree.
I
don't disagree with that. On it. But the thing is what I'm missing is that people aren't actually acknowledging that they can make a different play. Like that they can, like people don't take responsibilities for the variables that they can actually influence. That is what bothers me, and it doesn't get acknowledged, which means that people that don't understand the game very well, they will just look at it face value, right? That's the whole thing. Like that's what me as a pro player, that's what I have to deal with. That's what you have to deal with as a streamer. Is that you know, when you make a bad play and it looks bad, no matter how much you try to explain why you make that play, you're an idiot to these people, right? Because they take it as face value.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is that these people do the same thing, right? Someone makes a bad play, no matter how smart it may have been to consider making that play, it's a bad play now, and you'll get flamed as such.
So
and what I'm trying to say, you can go ahead.
Okay. So this is actually it's a double-edged sword, because in some ways streamers will want to try to actually say what they were thinking or why they did something that turned out bad and that, you know, ended up like they died or something went wrong. And even if they try to explain it, the person can't discern whether they're right or wrong. They only end up seeing the end result. And so the end result is that the streamer looks like a fucking idiot. But
the thing is, it's not even that. Like, I feel like as a streamer, the problem is the way that the community is structured is that if you are giving reasoning for why, like, let's say you're like, hey, I fucked this up, and this is why I fucked this up. I was like overestimating these factors, etc. The thing is, it's always an excuse. That is like how things are portrayed within the community. Like if you're like, oh shit, like my bad, like I didn't realize that they had TP advantage. Then the community will be like, oh, well, you're blaming your top laner for not having TP. Like you should have known that it's not TP advantage. And you're not necessarily saying, hey, my top laner's a fucking idiot because he like lost lane and didn't like, you're just saying like, hey, I just didn't consider this factor. So it makes you not want to explain your reasoning for things in depth because you know you're just going to get shit on either way.
Which is fair. But what I'm talking about is like, I feel like the perspective that's lost here is like, like in my experience, at least, people don't want to acknowledge that person A misplayed, person B could have done something to have avoid the situation where this person could misplay, if that makes any sense. Sure. Like that's what I'm looking for, right? That's where I feel like it's missed. And I feel like in SoloQ especially, like for example, LS had a great example, but another one is like jungler ganks my lane, right? Jungler messes up in lane on the gank, and I blame him for missing a spell. But as a player, as an individual, what I can change is create a better lane state so my jungler has an easier time ganking, for example, right?
Sure.
And I feel like this is like when people start blaming each other, they neglect this factor. They neglect the fact that, oh, I could have done this. Maybe not this game, I agree, and this game could be completely doomed, but that's irrelevant to like the nature of like how SoloQ works, right? You're playing hundreds of games. You're probably playing thousands of games.
So an example that I gave Bwipo in private was I used an Ezreal Leona example. Imagine you're Ezreal and Leona, you dive someone underneath the turret. Ezreal initially misses QW and then Leona misses R. And the opponent lives with 50 HP. Ezreal being the streamer, and I've seen this happen a lot because I think that we're all not guilty of it necessarily, but many pro players will be on Discord with each other and they'll tune into someone's stream and they'll watch the streamer complain about something that's happening in game, and the pro players will all say to themselves, what is he talking about? Like, he could have just done this different. Or he could have hit this skill shot, or he shouldn't have even been doing this, right? But the streamer's obviously venting and frustrating. The viewers are not the pro players that can discern the differences between what's happening, and they just speak amongst themselves inside of Discord. So the initial fault actually lies on Ezreal, but the Ezreal, being the streamer, might say, oh, this Leona's a fucking donkey, she just missed her R. Even though he initially missed Q and W. And so it perpetuates this toxic, like, oh, it's fucking Leona's fault, even though Ezreal was the initial one to mess up.
Yeah, I think that all that stuff, I think that the way that Bwipo explains things, like, I feel like that's the best way to determine, like, for self-improvement, right? Like, I think if you're trying to get the most out of SoloQ, like, that's the approach you should have. But overall, like, when I look at games, right, and I'm trying to, like, analyze what would make SoloQ better as a whole, I think that there's, like, obviously there's individual misplays. So I think the game that Bwipo was referencing was like the Shyvana game that I played, right? Where it was like
I don't think it was. I don't know. It was. I don't remember when it was exactly.
Well, I think I just heard that's when I
talk about this. Sure.
Yeah, I talked about this. It was in between. It was in between games. It was after that game where I said this. Where like I think that the easier ways to like influence the culture of it would be to like talk about the things that shouldn't be allowed to happen in game. Like, sure, obviously, if you play absolutely perfectly, like you can go in with the mentality of like, if you don't play perfectly, you shouldn't say anything to anyone else. But then there's also like the ideas of like, what do you think is actually bad for the community to do? Like, what are unhealthy practices that people have within SoloQ? And another example that I brought up to LS before you joined the call was like, you know, in NA we have this huge problem with one tricks, and like dodging if your one trick is banned is I think something that is like healthy, and it should be like borderline mandatory. So if you play only one champion in SoloQ, like, and you have, and your next best champion is 20% win rate, and your champion gets banned, like maybe you want to punish the streamer because the streamer was streaming the game and they banned you out because they went to their stream, etc. Like there are like there is fault you could blame on the person streaming the game as well, but in general I think that like those are things that are just like wrong. Like those are like wrong attitude problems that go into the game that cause such like an uncomfortable state for everyone to play in, because no one wants to play with somebody who's learning a new champion, or if you,
I agree,
like etc. So like those are the things that I like to focus on myself when I'm like talking to my viewers.
And I 100% agree with what you're saying. And what I'm saying is that people blaming each other and not acknowledging what they could have done better is one of those behaviors. Like they don't actually take a moment. Like you belting out in frustration because something went wrong is natural. Like it's normal. Like, oh, I can't believe this guy missed. Or like, oh, like I have these moments on stage, you know, like, oh, like you just take a moment of like, I can't believe this guy, like, how did he dodge that? Or how did I miss that? Or that did that much damage? Everyone loves the cutie pie meme, right? Like, I can't believe that killed me or whatever. Yeah. That's normal. But after that moment of frustration, taking a second to just admit, okay, this is what I could have done differently, is what will improve that. And again, if you're telling me that that's what you should do for self-improvement, that is what will fix the problem. Like that is what will make, I don't know what your point was exactly there, but the way I feel about that is that everybody in SoloQ starts doing this, SoloQ will become a better place naturally, because everyone's going to try to win, right? Because they're going to be thinking about this.
So my point is that that's like step 5, whereas like step 1 is like creating environments where it's like, hey, like if you run it down, we fucking ban your account. Like don't like that. Like that's just the first step. When you follow a streamer around and you're consuming his buff on cooldown as Nunu, you get a punishment from Riot. So I think that like, yeah, like that could be like step 5 of trying to improve SoloQ. But like there's so many things that create such a negative environment before that could be easily fixable. Because like obviously you're asking everyone to just be like just be a better person, right? Like that's what it is.
I mean, I'm just asking people to like acknowledge like that they're playing. Like what I miss the most, and this is what I miss when I play. Comparing to my high MMR account, right? I have an account, my main account. People recognize me, right? People try harder when I'm in their games. I feel it. I feel that people actually give a shit about the outcome of the game when I'm in the game, because I try hard in SoloQ. I believe at least, and I could be wrong. You know, everyone that has ever played with me can at me at Twitter like, "Lol, JK, you're an idiot." But My point is the way I feel when I play on my main account is that people will listen to what I ping them and how I think they should be playing. When I tell them don't dive or like don't do this, they will listen to me and they will try hard, right? And I feel like the game is much more a team game, which is what it ideally is, right? That's what you're trying to play, a team game. You're all trying to play off each other. And anybody that plays this game at a reasonable level can tell a mistake from a good play. And I'm not saying that they need to understand all the intricacies or anything like this. It's just, okay, we made a misplay. And the only thing people need to do is, okay, what could I have done, right? And you're telling me that this is like step 5, but in reality, like, you can do this every single game. Anybody can do it. Anybody is able of doing that.
How do we monitor and implement this in a way that is going to make like other people?
It's not about monitoring. It's just everybody individually playing the game needs to take a moment and just be like, all right. Like I'm not saying like, I'm just saying in general. And you were talking about like griefing streamers, for example. Like just griefing in general should get you banned. That's just a fact. Like if you lock in Nunu and you run around and consume anybody's buffs,
you should get
you're
banned,
supposed to get the ban. Yeah, like that's just how it is, right? Like that's just griefing. But my point is more that I feel like people in general need to want to play this game as if it's a team game and rely on people when they're supposed to rely on people and try to do their best, not to have to, right? That's when the game is at its best. It's like when I make a poor decision and I lose my team a dragon, I shouldn't be immediately jumping to the fact of like, yeah, I mean, I lost this dragon, but remember the last 2? My jungler into that time. And I feel like that's the natural response right now. I feel like that's how people in SoloQ just behave in general. I think it's a huge problem. I think it's a huge problem that people are just all neglecting. It's like everybody's blaming something else instead of just being like, you know what? I probably shouldn't have done that. Like that was a bad play. And so in the moment you can be like, oh, for fuck's sakes, we lost the dragon, but we lost 2 or 3 because of this guy. Like, sure, But ultimately, it's your responsibility to contribute to the game, and that's what you queued up to do. And that's what I actually want people to understand, right? Like, I don't care if Riot has to implement a message before you queue up in ranked that says you are entering a ranked game. You're supposed to try your best to win. That's what you're deciding to do in that moment. It's not just like, oh, whatever, let's play another game. Nah, that's not what this queue is for. This queue is for actually trying your best to win and helping your teammates, regardless of how incompetent they may be, to win. That's what you're trying to fucking do, no? Sure. Like, honest to God, that's the point of the queue. Why are you queuing up ranked gameplay if that's not your intent? If your intent is to do anything but that, then fuck off.
Preach,
I agree with everything you're saying, but like, I guess you just don't understand how bad it is in NA. That's like the difference that I'm seeing here is like, it's sure. Like, this is and like, that's what this is shit, has to fucking put a message there saying, kindly fuck off if you don't intend to win. Then that's fine by me, right? I'm not even expecting anything from. I'm not even sure. I don't even intend anything. Like, I don't even think Riot has to do anything. I just want people in this community to understand when you queue up a ranked game, that's your response. Like, you are using your time to try and achieve something in a video game that requires you to try hard to win, right? Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's all I want people to realize. And if you do that, and you, honest to God, think that for whatever fucking reason, picking Nunu and running around and consuming your own jungler's buffs is achieving that goal, then you have something very wrong with you. And again, and if people think it's funny to grief and whatnot, that's fine. You know, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. And I agree that the people should get banned for that. And we do need a system where that actually happens. I 100% agree. Griefers should get banned. And there is a difference between griefers and good players, even in Europe. We have them too. I know multiple people, even top laners, where I'm like, this guy is just fucking bad. I don't know how he's in my MMR, and I don't know why I have him 3 or 4 games a day, but he's there, and he's fucking terrible. And sometimes I have him on my team, and sometimes he's on the enemy team, right? My experience in Europe, at least in like high grandmasters and low challenger, which is when I played primarily when I was there for the month I was there in season 9, was that people in Europe were much more willing to like hard troll than soft troll. Like, my experiences with people, if people want to troll
they would piss someone off, they will ruin you. Exactly, they'll ruin your game on the spot, right? I agree.
But that is like almost more comfortable for me than what goes on in NA. Like, that is almost honestly like something that I can accept, because when I go into the game and I see, like, I put a clip of NIQ. I don't know if you know NIQ, or Nick.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the player from I think he's from Poland or something like that, and I just had him just disco Nunu me and run me down. But like, I can go into that game and I know I'm getting disco Nunu'd and I know I'm getting trolled, and it's like, okay, whatever. Like, you can kind of release the like gratuitous, like the gratuitous fucking soft inting that goes on in NA for streamers. And this is mainly what Voyboy was talking about, where you have some guy, and there was a clip on Reddit like a couple of days ago, where you have a guy who's just like half trolling, you know, like sometimes he'll heal him, sometimes he'll not. Like, oh, he'll commit to one play, make a good play. Next play, he'll like kind of fuck around because they want to avoid getting banned. And then like the whole time he's insulting him, like, oh, your fucking girlfriend cheated on you, Voy, you piece of shit. Like, you're so fucking ugly, like shit like that. It's like, that's the type of stuff that I feel like just makes this game so terrible to play before like you get to the point of blaming, because you don't even get a real game to play, or like you don't have anything to blame because you're just like dealing with some dude just fucking harassing you in North American solo queue for the entire fucking time. So the whole like point of this for me is like, how do you influence people to act in the way that's going to make solo queue the best possible, like immediately? Like, sure, like we can say, yes, this message of like taking responsibility and analyzing your own mistakes first, I think that's part of it, but it's like, what is going to be done to actually achieve that within solo queue? Do we just send the message out there? Do we just when I stream tomorrow, do I try to just like have a better attitude? Like, how exactly does that change?
I mean, how do you expect that to happen regardless of what outcome you put in? Like, let's be real. Nothing you try to do and nothing that will be implemented by Riot will solve this issue immediately. Like, that doesn't exist. It will have to come from the people that are playing this game. That's ultimately the case. Because again, I can grief too. Like, the reason why I don't grief is because I give a shit. I actually care about the game. I actually want to win when I queue up. And this is irrelevant from the fact that whether or not I have a career in the game or not. Like, I actually care. I've always cared. When I was gold elo, grinding my ass off to try and fucking hit gold 3 for the first time, playing God knows fucking what. You know, people might have like complained about what I was picking and how I was building. But the point is, I was trying my fucking best at every fucking point. And I was a shitlord too. I was fucking dog shit. I know I was, because now I realize how bad I was at this game.
But what's your stance on someone that would defend their soft hinting fucking trolly griefy nature as them actually trying their best? Like, and I want to highlight the new Brack example. Like, what's your take on that?
Like, we actually have that. We have that in Master Tier for like hundreds of games. We have a player that queues up in Master Tier. I played with him recently, where he plays Teemo. He goes invisible or top it.
Yes,
he goes
I know the guy.
Right.
Yes.
So
and we've dealt with
I know
this
what he does.
hundreds and hundreds of games in NA. Like I played with this guy thousands of times. I was his donation message of me complaining about him in games. Yes. Like I was his donation message where I was like, this guy's a fucking loser. Look at him. Like, look at him. He's in my fucking lane. Like,
I understand. Like, I get it. And that's fucking tilting. And I don't know why this person isn't banned. Like, that's the thing, right? It's like when a multitude of people commonly agree that this guy is griefing games, he should be removed. It's that simple, right? It shouldn't be allowed. And I agree with that 100%. Now, what I don't agree with is that, let's say the next, like, there's another guy that comes in and does something similar and is actually successful with a high win rate. This guy gets purged or whatever for the same reason, right? That's why you have to take it with a grain of salt, right?
People aren't pissed off because they're winning games with this Teemo that's playing Unorthodox. People are pissed off that this dude, literally, he got to fucking high elo playing Teemo support like a normal human being. And then once he got Master Tier, he started AFKing in other people's lanes and had like 40% win rate.
Obviously.
Yes.
And obviously. That's the problem.
Just ruined games.
That's griefing. That's griefing. That's naturally, that's just griefing. That's like me playing, I don't know what, set, and I have 60% win rate. Yeah, I have 60% win rate playing it normally, and then all of a sudden I decide, like, you know what, guys, I'm gonna play set jungle with Ignite and Ghost, and I'm gonna run into the enemy buff level 1 and flip it. Like, let's see what happens. Like, that sounds like fun, doesn't it? I'm giving people ideas right now, like, hell, and that's obviously griefing, and that should be punished immediately. Like, that, there's nothing around that. This person should get banned. Like, end of story.
So
like, permanently, in my opinion.
Of course. And what Ellis and I were talking about is like, are there systems that could be put in place to like create a better environment where people were less frustrated? Because I feel like the way that it kind of goes right now is like some guy gets inted in one. Like, how often do you have this? I don't know if it's relatable to you because you only pretty much play at the top of the ladder. But like, I'm sure that people have had this in chat where you get into the game and it's like, there's somebody on your team that's like, I got fucking trolled last game, so I'm trolling this game. And they just fucking run it down in your game. You don't have any of the same players, but they're just upset that somebody ran it down in their game before.
It happens in the sense of like, last game, like if you have the same person twice in a lobby, and like, for example, me, like I like doing some questionable things, right? Like, my Ignite Shyvana top, it might work, it might not, but it's not griefing, like I have an idea. People will laugh at me, but go ahead. That's what it's for, right? And then the next game, someone will be like, you know what? I'm going to try ahead and play, first time Kindred AD carry. Let's see how it goes. I saw some other guy doing it, right? And that's right, and that's how it is. Yeah. So yes, it does happen, and my solution is very simple, right? Like it has to be monitored individually, right? And it has to be on a game by game basis, and it has to be something that is obviously overbearing. Like if this person is continuously griefing over and over again, he should get manually banned. Like, RadIRL kind of made a name for himself in EU griefing, right? Pornstar Zillion, all those guys, they all made a name for themselves griefing. Like, I don't know, like if they got banned manually or not, but I would hope they are. Like, I would hope they were. Like, at this point, I know RadIRL, like when he plays IMMR, he actually tries really hard and he does his best, and I'm happy he does, because for me, I've always liked having these people in my team, right? Because it's like, there's a 70% chance that they're going to carry my ass, and there's a 30% chance I'm getting griefed, like no matter what I do, as long as I don't piss them off, there's a better chance of winning than losing.
You just like flipping. Like, let's be honest. You just like flipping it for fun.
No, that's not even a flip. That's 70% in my odds, like RadIRL has like 80% win rate on Twitch, and like 20% of that is him going for coffee at 5 minutes. Like, fair enough, like I'm off and he doesn't feel like drinking coffee, I'm going to win, so I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to sit in my lane, and you know what? You want some CS? You can take it. Here you go. Yeah. I don't give a shit. Well, like, anything. Self-made is the same, by the way, in the past. He was nearly one trick. Like, I would just like, oh, you want something? I'll take it. I don't give a shit.
Ellis, you want to? Did you hear Ellis's idea about like the Toxicity skin team, or like the Toxicity?
I actually don't mind it. Yeah, it sounds pretty reasonable.
So here's the thing. Like, streamers could even, like, I talked about it with Blastoise. I can't remember verbatim what his response to it was. If there was a Toxicity skin line that was used to fund the people whose jobs then need to be allocated towards doing this, as well as the artists that have to make the skins, then you use that skin line to fund that department. I don't know
makes sense.
Right, and I think that all of the influencers and the YouTubers and the streamers communities that are against this, and even people in lower MMR who are probably against this notion, would probably get those skins. Just to support the cause.
I don't disagree with you. Right, obviously. I don't disagree with you.
They could promote it on fucking LCS and LEC. Like, hey, this is the anti...
fucking buy... Fuck it, just buy it in the store. Just have a little fucking badge. You can pay $2,000 a month, and you can have your games monitored by a fucking Rioter. And every streamer just buys that shit. You capitalize off the fucking streamers. You get our fucking money directly, and then you can have somebody fucking ban our people out. Come on, like anything, man. I'll take anything at this point.
But the thing is like the big problem here is like, what do you consider griefing, right? Like the notion of like this person is griefing. Like I can say it as well. Like for example, my jungler doesn't know how to play my side of the map, and I need his help, right? Like enemy junglers on the weak side, and at some point I need relief. It's a very normal, standard way of playing the game, right? Like the weak side needs to get relief from strong side at some point in the game. Now this is not a concept that people understand in League of Legends. Even in pro play sometimes, right?
Of course. No. I'm not talking about like minor shit like that. I'm talking about very basic shit. Like we have a one trick on our team, and our teammates are banning out our own one trick to ruin our own chance of winning. Like stuff like that is what I want people punished for.
Right, and then that's what I'm saying. Like, and then the degree of how punishable that is and whatnot is something that needs to be explored and discussed, right? Ooh. And ultimately, for every level of play, that type of stuff happening is difficult to punish, right? Like, I don't know, like for all I care, you have a system where, you know in Champs Select you can hover a champion, right? And when someone tries to ban the champion you hovered, you get a message saying you're not supposed to ban that.
Yeah,
or like, you're not supposed to, but you're banning something that they hover. Like, if you do this multiple games in a row, you get punished, right? And I think that's fair, right? Because, like, for example, I ban Kha'Zix every fucking game. No reason. I just ban the champion. I ban it really. Like, I scroll down, I click on his head, and I ban it. And I don't really think anything about it. And if I have a Kha'Zix one trick on my team, I've had it before. I'm smurfing on an account, and then this guy's, like, flaming me. Like, why would you ban Kha'Zix? And this guy didn't hover the champion, doesn't have anything in his username about Kha'Zix. And I'm like, well, shit, I guess I griefed.
Well, you got traumatized by a Gurren that much?
No, I never played against his Kha'Zix. I actually never played against his Kha'Zix. You can go check my master streak for the past 200 games. I haven't played against it a single time, so you can go ahead and do that. But I haven't played it. I just banned, like, I've banned Kha'Zix for 2 years straight now. But my point is that it's a random champion, you know? Like, for all I care about, I ban Zac every game. I don't know, do you ban a champion every game?
I ban Rengar every single game as a jungler.
Exactly, you ban Rengar every single game. And so at some point, you know, I might come in your team and I might be, like, hovering Rengar top, and then you ban it, and you're like, oh, shit, my bad.
Then I definitely ban it. Then I definitely ban it.
Right? And that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying, the solution is if the one trick is like focused on getting his champion and is tryharding, then he's obviously going to immediately when he joins Champ Select hover the champion so his teammates know he wants to play that, right?
Yeah.
And if you're one of those people that bans that champion, like bans a champion away from one of his teammates, like several times in a row, then you get punished. Like I mean, you get I don't know what, like I don't know, you get like a whatever punishment you deserve, right? Like obviously the degree of the punishment it needs to be reasoned here, but I think that's a very reasonable thing in the sense of like, you know, you're one trick, you're joining the lobby, the only thing you have to do is immediately press whatever champion you one trick, and then if one of your teammates bans that, then if he keeps doing that, he's banned. Sure. Like a couple of days banned.
Like marks on the account.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, next time next time we won't be as lenient with you being toxic, for example. Right? Like you drop a toxic message, that's not going to be a chat restriction, it's going to be a two-way vacation. Right. There you fucking go. It's like it puts a marker on people, for example, right? That's what I would do to solve the one-trick problem with a system that's already in place, right? Because that does happen, but I'm pretty sure that I could ban champions my teammates are hovering every single fucking game, and nothing would happen to my account. Nothing would happen to my account. Exactly. And that's weird because that system is there for like people to like obviously communicate with each other what they want to do, right? Like I want to play this, and that's like a huge problem in the game is that like communication between players and between SoloQ teammates is something that's just abysmal.
Yeah, of course. But I think there's one thing we can talk about there, which is voice comms. If you think that would actually benefit the game, or like, what's your take on that? And then the other thing I think that we could discuss is just the fact that like we're talking about mainly like manual reviews, because I feel like sure you can have like mistakes. Like I banned out things that my teammates are hovering before.
Sure, and that's fine.
And that happens. But when you have somebody manually there, you can judge intent a lot better, in my opinion. So when the person says, hey, like if you don't path bot at 3 minutes, we might misplay, and then you just see the Draven run straight into the enemy turret and die, and then he's like, hee XD, sorry. Like that type of shit, like I feel like you can judge a malicious intent so much better, and you'll never get banned doing that if you don't have somebody specifically monitoring it. You can say he EXD and run into a turret. No one gives a fuck.
Sure, but again, like you have to understand that like having people individually monitor all the situations is a bit extreme, right? Like I don't know how it worked for NA, but I know for a fact that when I joined EULCS back then, it was we were pulled into a toxic meeting, right? And explicitly in that meeting, it was stated that if I was being toxic or griefing or anything like that, and I was getting reported on one of my Riot signed account, like my account is not like I leveled it myself, but I have to submit it to Riot, right? Because this is one of the accounts I use as a professional player. And I was told that if I get reported a significant amount, they will pull up the VOD and they will check whether or not I'm griefing or not, right? And that kind of system, I don't think is reasonable for average SoloQ players or potentially even streamers, right? Because like, what is the requirement for you to be a streamer? Do you need to be partnered on Twitch? Do you need to, I don't know, have X amount of viewers? Like, what creates you to be eligible to have, I don't know, this riot police basically around you, right? Because that can't feel fair for like smaller streamers.
Yeah, exactly. I would say like LPP would be a great way to start. You open it up to LPP, and we had. I mean,
you guys said that you had that already, kind of, no?
Yeah, we had that.
Did, and then it was removed.
Yeah, but we didn't have it like somebody monitoring it. We just had like escalated reports. We had an escalated report feature. We could report people in a channel, and it wasn't necessarily that they had a higher chance of getting banned, but they would get looked at first because they didn't want people target inting over and over again.
Right.
And that was removed because Nightblue, the whole new brag thing that you know about, like Nightblue just said that like, oh, like I'm going to fucking report him to LPP and we're going to get him banned, which isn't necessarily like, yeah, we can get people banned. That was just a misrepresentation of what the system was. We could actually just escalate our own reports. But the fact that he said that and the community was like, what the fuck? LPP can get people banned? Dom can just look at somebody and suddenly they're banned? Like, oh my God, they're going to fucking abuse the shit out of it. Look at that crackhead. Like, he's a fucking toxic piece of shit himself. Like, people were just like, are so angry that it was like, wait, calm down. That's not the situation. Like, we just have escalated reports, but they were right didn't like the heat that they were getting from it, so they just canceled the program altogether. So, I mean, that was the issue there. So, like, sure, they took that away, and it just got worse from there. Like, that's the problem, is that now we can't do like anything. Like, it's back to the
I mean, fair enough. I'm just saying, like, ultimately, when I think about it, right? I think about SoloQ as a whole in general. I honestly, maybe I'm just incredibly lucky over the years, but I've never experienced consistent toxicity at that point, like at that level, right? And that's maybe why I'm biased. But ultimately, if you want to find a solution for how to fix SoloQ or fix the experience for everybody involved, because that's ultimately what it is. People just like actually need to, want to do that. I don't think you can implement anything that will magically make people not want to grief, right? Like,
well, I mean, there's other things that Ellis suggested, like have you ever played like a game that had game masters, for example? Like
I played World of Warcraft.
WoW,
I played World of Warcraft.
Quest, things like that. Okay, so like that's like another way where you have certain players that somehow are proven to be great upholders of the Summoner's Code that have extra power in terms of like determining griefers. But also, like, I mean, so I guess for you, I would implore you to watch the Legend of Dot YouTube series by IWDominate featuring myself.
I've seen glimpses of it, and I understand completely. But what I'm saying is that here I'm gonna break it to you. If I wanted to grief a raid, I would grief a raid. Like, I didn't, but I know people that did. I know people that had fun doing it, and they would do it on a daily basis. They would just grief for fun.
Leroy Jenkins.
Ban them? No, they fucking didn't.
Yeah,
no, they fucking didn't.
I think that having that threat increases.
Sure, it makes people be less likely to engage in griefing somebody, but ultimately griefing is unstoppable. Like, you will always find a way to grief, no matter what.
The same way that cameras in a store are going to dissuade people from stealing. It doesn't mean that stealing will not exist, but it will happen less frequently.
And I don't disagree with you.
Yeah,
I just think that in this game, and with how many people that are actually playing, finding a reasonable solution for a company like Riot to actually take action, at least from my perspective, right, where they're like, okay, this works for everybody. Like, that's not gonna, like, none of the things that we're gonna suggest are gonna work that way, right? You need to affect the whole player base for that to actually matter.
Well, this trickle-down effect is like, if a certain culture is built within like the amount of the community that's visible, so the top streamers games, right? If there's a certain culture that goes on there. Like a lot of people, they blame the streamers for the culture that's been created, like all the blaming, all like the people leaving. I mean, that whole video on Tyler One, like griefing games, etc. And they're like, oh, he's the biggest streamer, he's griefing games, that's why other people are griefing games, because they like Tyler One and like whatever. Because that's the idea. I mean, if you create a certain culture within like high elo, it could trickle down to lower elos, because people are like, hey, like if I want to be the best,
sure,
like I'm not going to be engaging in this type of bullshit and griefing games and banning my teammates champions and like all that type of stuff.
But that's the thing. But if you want to be the best, but like that's like the argument that removes it entirely, because I've never seen anybody that actually wants to be the best and actually wants to improve do this consistently. Like, again, the fact that they do it once or twice is already enough for me to like disapprove of this behavior entirely. But that's the whole problem, is that I feel like the mindset of people trying to play a ranked league isn't correct in the first place. Like, people don't treat SoloQ, especially at higher ranks, right? Like at lower ranks, I get it. You're playing a video game. It doesn't mean shit yet, right? Like, it's just a video game. But even at higher ranks, Master Tier, Diamond 1, like, people are like, they're not really close, but they could be if they wanted to be, is how I feel, right? Even these people, like, they engage in this type of behavior so consistently. And that's what bothers me, is that, like, there's so much bad behavior that I don't know why it's there. I don't know why, like, people just can't accept that they're the only factor that matters, right? Over a multitude of games.
Frustration. I think a lot of it is frustration. Like, people that are that close, but they can't seem to like break through. Like, I feel like a lot of that is just people just being just upset with the circumstances, and they're like, hey, like I wish I could play LCS. I put a lot of time into the game, but I'm not there, and I can't see like what I'm doing wrong or why my game is going so poorly. And then they tunnel on the things that are making their games extra bad. So like griefers, people banning champions, whatever, like they tunnel on that stuff, the negativity, like fuck it, like I'm just gonna give it back to like these motherfuckers myself, and then they just start trolling themselves. I feel like that's kind of why it ends up being such like an issue in that clamp of ELO specifically. But one thing that I wanted to bring up is just like, I think that in Europe, part of the reason, like when I played in Europe, at least, and this was last year around April, so this was about this, I was actually in Europe this time last year, and there was so many more people that were like professional players in terms of like you guys have so many regional leagues. So when I would get into like games, I would get players in like low masters, and like, or like when I was grinding through low masters, I would get games where like 7 out of the 10 people in the game are people that play League of Legends full time. Whereas in NA, it's so disconnected. It's like you have your top 50 pros and like half of them are imports and aren't even here. Like obviously because of the COVID thing, they're here now, but generally speaking, they're not here during the off season. And then you have like Academy, which is like some slots under that, but then you also have like imports and shit in Academy as well. And then there's just like this huge like tier where it's like, how do you even fucking get into Academy? The people just don't even want to like aspire to be it. They feel like it's so far away that there's no way that they can actually like make a path to becoming that.
Academy is
that's just mentality issue. Like I'm gonna interrupt you here, Aless, and then you can go. But like that's just like, these people are hopeless. Like I'm not pointing anybody out, but if you, honestly to God, if you're playing this game as a professional player and your goal isn't to win worlds, you're wasting your time. Like, what's the point of playing if you're not going to try it and do literally everything you can to be the best?
Become a streamer.
As a professional player. Just go be a streamer, make educational content. Just stop. Like, if you can't even entertain yourself reaching that level, what's the point? Like, what's the point? I implore people to ask themselves that, because for me, that's been the goal all along. When I was Diamond 1, I was Season 3. I was abusing Spirit of the Elder Lizard into Last Whisper. I was the saddest person on the planet when Last Whisper got removed, because I rushed it every fucking game, and then I would build 4 brutalizers. That was my build every single game, and I hit Diamond 1 doing this, playing Lee Sin and Jarvan only. And at that point, after that season happened, I hit Masters for the first time. And that's when I realized, is like, I want to win Worlds. That's just what I want to do. And I'm going to keep playing until I win Worlds. I'm going to keep trying every single fucking game until I hit that point, until I get close, right? That's been the goal all along. And you don't need to get close or you don't need to believe in anything other than this is what your goal is. No matter how long it's going to take you. If you're a professional player and you're not aiming for that, you're wasting your own time. Honestly, you're wasting the people's time around you as well. All right, that's just me on the tangent for the people that are like, I can't hit LCS, because that's not where you should be aiming.
Does the boss FFS want to win Worlds? That is my question to you.
I don't know if he does or not. I mean, he's not trying to go pro, so I don't imagine he is trying to win Worlds. But like people that are going pro, like for example, a team like Mad Lions, new rookies, right? I feel like most of these players that are playing there, they're actually like hungry for that. They want to do that. Like they actually want to go and win Worlds. They don't want to just sit there and oink and be like, oh, I'm an LEC, woo. That's not.
No, but there's a lot of players that are like that. There's a lot of players that are like that.
Yeah, I know, and again, and from what I understand, a lot of them are in NA. I understand that.
Yes. And there's
and this goal is contagious. I can tell you for a fact that it is. In my experience, it is.
Like
2018, after Summer Split, I kept saying that we were going to win Worlds, and I kept saying it, and I personally felt like my teammates were getting more confident as the tournament went on that we were going to. Like, obviously, unfortunate circumstances, not quite. But for me, like, even making finals was something that nobody even considered Europe that would do, right? But I would just get it. I'm just like, we're winning. Fuck this shit. I'm not showing up to just fucking lose. Fuck that.
I had dinner with Bwipo.
I'm winning the shit.
And he said he was going to 3-0 IG.
Guess what happened? Fucking Gragas. FF. Like, what can I do? Nothing.
Oh my god.
No, I'm kidding. Of course, there's a lot of things that I could have done. But the point is that that's the feeling you need to have if you want to make it in this game. And I'm telling anybody that wants to actually get anywhere playing this game, it's not luck. It's not anything other than the fact that most people that are successful, that they're just looking at winning Worlds and that's it. Nothing else, nothing else matters. But that's the goal. That's where you're aiming at. And if you're aiming at, I want to make LCS so I can join, I don't fucking know what team, because you're an academy, then honestly, when you make it, you're going to drop out eventually because you're not aiming high enough.
Right.
Like, aim for the fucking stars, and if you miss, you miss. But keep going.
Yep. Just want to join Heart of Thieves so I can talk to Valkyrie, please. That's the goal here.
That's just the fucking point. Like, you miss. You're gonna miss 100 fucking times. So you might as well try aim at the furthest fucking place you can. Like, I even fucking lost EU finals. Like, fuck's sakes. Like, I griefed it. You know, like, I lost there. Even then, now in summer, I will tell myself I'm playing until I fucking win Worlds. I'm gonna keep trying until I go to the Worlds. I dropped out in Worlds finals. I dropped out whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. I can like lose 50 solo queue games in a row, and I'll still fucking try to win Worlds. Like, this goes for anything in your fucking life that you ever want to achieve. Like, what's the point in trying to hit like I don't know what. What's the point of not aiming the furthest you can? It's pointless. You might as well try harder. Whatever, rant over. Like, it just triggers me that the people that exist in this game that get paid money, that get paid money for doing this shit. Like, honestly, for playing this game, like, it triggers me so fucking much.
There's a quote, but I'm gonna fuck it up. But something like, if you aim for the stars, you end up on the moon. Some shit like that. That's
a great quote. But I don't know. I don't know. I just got really triggered by the idea that people that are in academy, they're just like, oh, I can't make LCS. I don't want to try hard anymore. Like, that's just disturbing, honestly. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if that was what you wanted to achieve going pro, then I'm sorry, but you're not thinking right.
I had to get coffee.
Your mind is not in the right place, in my opinion.
What? Okay, I'm back. I had to get coffee.
I completely agree. I played pro with the same mindset. As long as when I stopped wanting to potentially win Worlds, I was just like, fuck it, might as well try streaming.
I agree, 100%. Like, the day if I never win Worlds, I might not. Whether I do, I don't know. I believe I can, and that's why I keep going. But the point is that's irrelevant. Point is, if you don't want to, don't bother. Same with SoloQ. If you don't actually want to climb to whatever goal it is that you want to climb, then stop playing SoloQ. Like, if your intent isn't, I'm going to climb, I'm going to reach this level so I can be that MMR, stop playing SoloQ. Like, if your goal is to go into SoloQ, like, for example, I understand that it's exciting to snipe streamers, because this is something I used to do. When IWDominate was streaming on Fat American in EU, I sniped him, and I felt great because I played well in that game. I remember this exactly. It was season fucking 4.
Though. That is the difference between EU and NA. That's actually how people view it in EU. They're like, shit, I want to get in this fucking streamer's game so I can just go the fuck off, beat them, and just look like a badass. Like, that's exactly the glory. You know what NA does?
There's one clip in this fucking video where I made a play, and I remember it to this day. There's one fucking clip in his video of 10 minutes. I went through every single video of him playing on EU until I saw myself, and I kept sniping him, and I made it. I fucking made it.
Yeah,
and it was great.
So, like, in NA, people are like, I want to fucking get into Cutie Pie's game so I can flame him and call him a fat American the entire time, and then when he fucking acknowledges me, then I'm gonna feel good about myself. That's the enemy.
I mean, that's just disturbing. Like, that's just disturbing. Honestly, there's nothing to say about that. That's just fucking disturbing. Honestly, that honestly is disturbing. There's no counterplay to that. I'll be honest with you. Like, if people are honestly don't give a shit, then there's nothing you can do, and that's the truth in everything you do. If people don't care, they don't give a fuck, then you have no counterplay against someone that doesn't give a shit. Like, if the guy doesn't care, what can you do? Something.
Yeah, exactly. But those are that's such like fringe psychopaths, you know? Like, we're trying to hit the people that are like psychotic because they think they can get away with it, but they're actually pussies and are afraid of consequence.
Yes.
Those are the people that I'm trying to like fuck with, where it's like, oh shit, you might get reported. Like, somebody could be watching this game. You don't know. Riot's watching. Like, then they're like,
right.
Okay.
Obviously.
My bad.
But I mean, again, if those people don't do it from like because they have something to gain from playing and grinding and achieving something in the game, then honestly, like, I don't know how, like, I don't know, and this is something that I've been thinking about since we started talking about this, but I like everybody that speaks about the Korean server always says it's the most toxic cesspool imaginable, unless you would know better, right?
I mean, Korea has the most opens I've ever seen. Like, you die level 3 or 4, it's over. It's just over. They just don't want to play.
I never experienced this. I played 2 months straight on that server, and I didn't have anything.
It got really bad. It got really bad 2019. Got really bad 2019. I agree with you. Season 6, 7, 8 was fine. They were very toxic in chat.
Well, that's the thing. Like, when I was in the World Camp, some of my teammates were saying this. But this server was
changed after the ladder got fucked up. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, what I'm saying is that even when people were playing at the same time as me, I had this notion. Like, people were telling me that this was how it was. I never experienced this. Was I just that lucky?
I don't know.
Maybe
it's because Bwipo doesn't look for it. He doesn't look for the controversy, so it's just not there.
No, but I played like what? I don't know how many games I played on that account. It was like
Koreans are like 400 really serious though. Generally, they're really tryharding. Even at like fucking platinum, they're tryharding. And Bwipo, I know that you're one of the outspoken pros about like the correlation between Korean solo queue and NA and EU, right? Like in terms of mechanical skill level. You get into
they're a lot better. But what I'm saying is that I never had these games where people were like continuous. Like, I had games where they were all unplayable because people were griefing all the time. Not more than the EU, you know. Like, it happens all the time, and left and right. People do stupid shit all the time. People grief all the time. People open here and there. But I never had this happen in my games. So, like, from my perspective, like, the way I felt, it was that, like, I don't know, did I get into the queue of everyone that's trying to win, or what? Like, did I join a queue that the secret queue?
You're in permanent winners queue, bro.
If you have a
queue, there we fucking go.
You probably know this. Koreans use the search features at the start of every game in lobby, right? They look up your match history. Yeah. They look all of that.
Sure.
Super accounts are defined as super accounts on these searches. Okay. So the second they see a super account, they're just tryhard. So you might be protected.
I disagree. And I would believe you if one of my teammates didn't tell me that this server was dog shit and he couldn't play the game on it.
Okay, well that I don't know.
Was one of those teammates?
That's the thing, right?
Was it maybe the jungler or?
Does it matter? Like, does it matter?
I think it does. Yes,
because it's always the fucking jungler that's complaining about this shit. Let me tell you, it was always. It was
the jungler, yeah. But what does that matter?
Of course, because junglers get it the worst, man. We're fucking oppressed out here. This is bullshit.
What do you mean? Like, is that just it? Is like you play a different role and it's doomed? The game is unplayable? Like, am I just a top laner, so I live in the promised land? Because the only thing that top laners interact with are to themselves anyway. Yeah, like, is that why I don't play solo queue? Is because I play top lane and I don't have to interact with anybody? By the way, I interact with more players on my team than average fucking junglers.
You're just masturbating up in top. Like, we're trying to fuck on the map, all right? Like,
that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Because, like, that's the thing. I would believe you if it were true, but it's not. You know, my junglers, they don't even like. There's some unholy concoction between sinning and not farming. Like, I don't know what it is, but they're clearly not farming very well. They're not sinning very well either, because I'm around every other lane more than they are. I don't know what to tell you. You know, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just saying, in my experience, solo queue isn't as bad as people make it sound. And I understand that your specific case, right? Your specific case where you're just talking like boy about the griefing, you getting griefed and all the shit.
Yeah.
I don't play anymore, bro. I co-stream and shit. Like, it's fine.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, the fact that there's so much people jumping on these threads being like, solo queue is unplayable, solo queue is dog, solo queue is that. It's like, I'm just sitting there being like, am I really the only person on this planet that can play the game and not feel like when I press Q up in ranked, it's fucking waste of time. Like, it's just like, it's a toxic cesspool that I'm entering with my hazmat suit, trying to survive, potentially reaching a point where I can play a video game that is not completely doomed one way or another at 10 minutes, like at 5 minutes, at 2 minutes, at 3 minutes. Like, it's just fucked.
But you can't read Korean, but if you could, you'd know that your mom is the most popular girl in Korea.
Wait, what?
They type in the chat.
I don't know. Like, maybe they're blaming me. I don't fucking know.
No, that's just what it
is.
is.
I have off, right? Pro tip for everyone that's actually trying to play this video game: they put the option there. You can remove chat from the game. Like,
wait, you play with no chat?
Is there another way to play? Can you actually play League of Legends with chat on?
Yeah,
I don't think.
Yes.
Well,
no.
Whatever it is, you can play whatever the fuck it looks like. Like, it looks like League of Legends, but that's not like that's not what happens when you have chat on.
Is this the secret?
I haven't chatted.
That's probably why you don't think you're getting griefed, because like you just think that everyone's making a misplay. You're like, oh, I guess the support roamed my lane.
But the thing is, you have to assume that. You have to assume that. Okay, great. Like, for real now, no more jokes. You have to assume that. Like, if you're playing League of Legends and you're assuming everybody on your team is trying to win equally hard as you have to assume that they made a mistake. Because if you're gonna fucking hold grudges against someone, it's doomed. You're gonna lose the game one way or another. Because you're not gonna make unbiased decisions. You're gonna, like, for example, I'll make you a really simple example. My jungler didn't, like, junglers do this a lot. This lane didn't move to my lane. I'm never ganking them again.
They didn't move to the crab? Yeah?
You didn't move to my crab. This guy's invading me. You didn't move for my invade? I lost my raptor. I'm never looking at my lane again. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, maybe I had a good reason not to, huh?
Yeah.
Like,
no, maybe you did.
What? Like, I didn't move.
Or maybe you're a selfish fuck that doesn't care about anyone except for yourself and doesn't have a fucking map. Okay. Maybe that happened too.
Okay, maybe that happened, but like, can we at least assume that I didn't move for a reason, and that my jungler that like for whatever reason had to drop a camp, that I'll repay him later, perhaps?
Yes. Because in
that's
NA,
what I'm saying. Like, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. People don't assume, like, you know what? I had to drop something, but my teammate must have gotten something because he didn't help me. That's the assumption you have to make.
Yeah.
Because
I'm assuming that my fat NA teammates can't see over their stomach to their mini map, and they don't know where the fuck I am on the map at all times. That's what I assume. That's my first.
And obviously, you're gonna fucking hate this game because that's just what like the only thing you're hoping for is for people to do exactly what you want and the way you want to win the game. There's more than one way to win the game. We all agree on that, right? Yeah. Like, there's more than one way to win at this game, and that's the beautiful thing about this game. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, it's through me or it's through Baron. That's it. There's the two ways.
Right, there we go, guys. There we go. That's the fucking trick. But this type of behavior is stuff that is like, you joke about it, right? But that's the fucking problem, is that people take it seriously. Like, people actually play like this. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, like, and don't get me wrong, there's times where like I whine because my jungler doesn't help me when he's supposed to help me. I've given him plenty of opportunities to look elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But at some point, I do need help in certain matchups, right? Like, at some point, like, if you don't want to push out my wave, I don't know, when my wave bounces level 5, you can't expect me to tank a gank under my turret when the wave is slow pushing, when they're slow pushing a wave back into me, and then somehow be okay in the game, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're trying to win, this is very normal. Like, I need a push out, and when it comes, I need cover, right? If you decide not to do one of those things, I can understand that. But if you neglect both, and then don't actually listen to me when I tell you I need help, and then you're like, I have a pro player that's 1 in 5, like, he's griefing me, then I don't know what to tell you, you know, you're just fucking bad.
Yeah.
And this is the type of culture that I actually see happening, is that people are complaining about situations where they are actually supposed to help the person. You know, like, from a jungling perspective, the jungler needs to be there, for example, or, you know, maybe the jungler is bot and he got a gank and the support has free time, and instead of pathing bot like a donkey, he needs to go top and cover, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's how it works. Weak side, strong side, whatever, right? And this type of behavior, this type of understanding of the minimap is something that is completely void, null and void in Europe and America, like in NA SoloQ. I didn't play much NA SoloQ. I only played when I went for Rift Rivals, and I didn't play much of it, I'll be honest.
No, I can tell because you still have all your hair, so you didn't play that much.
My point is that, like, I genuinely feel that people understand the game better in Korea from when the games I've played, right? It's like this type of behavior where people move around the map. Like, movement around the map is something that is foreign to most players in EU and NA playing SoloQ, right?
Yes.
An AD carry moving for whatever fucking reason. This doesn't exist in Korea. Level fucking 5, there's 5 people mid lane, right? And the point is that, you know, sometimes people grief it and they take a fight they shouldn't take, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But them being there is often the right move. Like, whether or not the outcome of that play is wrong or not, the point is that people move around the map, and this is just like the level of play I'm talking about is another thing that I feel like this doesn't exist because people weren't trying hard enough, and the people that were good at this game never, I don't know, taught people how the game is supposed to be played, perhaps? I don't know what's missing here, right? Because are people just that much worse? Do people just not understand that well? Like, I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of situations where
it was always like that in Korea compared to like NA. Like I played Korea in season 2, and I played like fucking super high MMR, and every single game was the same exact way. When I came back to NA, I think it's just like, I don't know if it's culture or what, but they're just so much more willing to like move to wherever the action is and just try to contribute to whatever action they see.
Exactly.
In whichever way
it's a team game. Like, I genuinely feel like it's more of a team game when I play on that server than when I play on EU and NA. Like, I actually feel like I'm playing a team game. Like, there's 5 people trying to achieve a win. And don't get me wrong, like, this is where the sinning it comes from, you know? Like, they are the fucking dirtiest of sinners, I'll be honest with you. Like, some Korean junglers I fucking see, like, holy shit. Yep. Like, they don't see their wolf camp until they're 18. Like...
Yeah,
like, Jesus, you know, like, but they're all contributing. They're all trying their damnedest to win the game. Like, and that's how I feel when I play in the server difference. And that's why, like, when people tell me, for example, Korean SoloQ is so bad, I don't get it, right? Because when I played on that server, that's how it was. And the reason why I'm comparing this is not to be like, Korea is so much better than EU and NA. That's not my point. My point is just that how is it possible that when I play on a certain server that the game actually feels different? Like, the game feels completely different. I'm playing a team game. When I play in EU and I play on any other account than my own main account that is recognized by people, I have to play this game as if it's a single-player game. I am taking every fucking single piece of farm on the map. It's all mine. My AD carry walks mid. No. Jungler starts Raptors. Thank you. Like, everything I take, I had to be level 16 compared to everyone being...
No wonder you play with chat off.
9.
I'd play with chat off too if I took my jungler's Wraith camp in front of him.
I'm just saying, like, I'm smart at this, you know? Like, if I see my jungler pathing somewhere, I'm on the other side of the map, you know? Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm good enough at the game to see when someone wants to farm something and when they don't, right? So, again, I'm getting all this farm without people getting triggered at me, and honestly, it's the best thing I'm at playing SoloQ, and it's the main reason I'm good at climbing in SoloQ, is because I'm expert at avoiding triggering people while still taking farm. Like, I'm expert. Like, I don't know, I'm a fucking therapist at this point when it comes to, like, juking people, triggering people, you know? Like, I'm like, you know, like...
Yeah. No,
I'm back and forth, like, juking. Like, I see my jungler starting Raptors, he's probably going to go Krugs. Thanks for the Wolves, thanks for the Blue, thanks for the Gromp. And the guy doesn't even complain because he's ganking bot anyway, and I know he will. So he doesn't even complain. He's like, oh, my Wolves are gone. By the time he's back, they're up. Woo! Like, no one noticed.
No, you just
I'm
ping
gone. I've sneaked off.
Times.
Not even. They don't even notice because they're ganking bot, and I already know they're ganking bot. Like, it's not that hard to tell the intent of people that are playing the game. Like, it's pretty simple, right? Like, if you're good at the game, you can tell the intent. Anyway, my point is that if I don't play like that, and I actually would rely on my teammates, and I tried to take, like, touch any of their farm, like, it's fucking lost. Like, it's lost. People are getting tilted at me for everything, like anything. I can take a small Raptor. What did you do? I get fucking stared at, you know?
You better avoid, if you ever see a player named Mirth in EUS SoloQ right now, you should dodge.
No, I mean, trust me, like, I would take his golems and he wouldn't even notice.
We'll
Sebastian,
he wouldn't even notice. No, it's not even that. It's not that you wouldn't notice. It's just like when I take, like, at a certain point, you reach the point where you can take someone's farm when it's proper. Like, that's the whole point. It's a team game. There are times where you're supposed to take someone's farm and when you're not supposed to. And people don't know the difference.
When your jungler's at Raptors and is going to move to Wolves and then gank bottom and the golems are up, you can take the golems.
You can take them.
Because by the time they rotate back up to the golems have respawned at a higher level. You're helping the jungler. You're fucking helping the jungler. It's a goddamn team game. Yeah. Take it away.
What happens if Dragon's spawning in 20 seconds in your top lane and you're rotating to Dragon and you take my golems and my wraiths on the way? If I run it down into their vision, you know what? I am not taking responsibility. You've tilted me into taking the wraiths and the golems.
I don't know what to tell you.
Point number 1.
I mean, obviously, that's another point, right? Like, and we can take this seriously or meme about it, but that's another point, right? Like, objectives, how to approach objectives, how to contest them. This is another thing that I feel like people are very bad at. And honestly, people in Korea are not that great at it either. I'll be honest with you, you know? Like, people pick Lee Sin, they're like, hey, I'm going to kick this guy, woo, you know, and then see what happens, you know? Like, they walk in division, oh, there's 5 people there, blows.
Well, since you play with chat off, I guess that one thing we could take that's kind of serious, and we can get your opinion on is what do you think about voice comms being added to this game? Do you think that would be like a positive?
I don't think they're necessary. I don't think they're necessary. I can communicate everything I need to with pings. So everything that I need my teammates to know, I can ping. I do. I thought, like, honestly, like the amount of times that when I was rank 1 in EU, I was rank 1 for a couple of weeks in this split, like a couple of months ago, right? The amount of times where my 6 ping was blocked when I was pinging someone not to do something that was obviously a mistake, but they were doing anyway, it was infuriating, right? And if I had voice comms, it would be nice. But again, if someone is reasonable and you ping 6 times, then usually you get the message across. Not always, but hopefully, you know.
I think it depends. I think that people will respect pings more the higher elo you go. That's at least been my experience. Like when I'm playing in a challenger game, it's much different than playing in like a low master game. Like you ping somebody in low master, they're like, "What did you fucking tell me?" Okay, I guess I'm running.
I'm not talking about pinging once or like pinging something specific. I'm pinging like I'm talking like when I play top lane and Camille and enemy top laner is Camille, I will ping every single fucking step this champion will take. Every click that guy makes, I will ping it down all the way to your lane and then ping where he's coming from. And if you die, then I mean I don't know what to tell you. You know, like, I had no counterplay. You know, like. This guy is a bot. He doesn't want to win. That's fine.
The interesting thing is that the region that has the most team play, even at the highest MMRs, mostly only speaks with ping, or it has Chinese players and LMS players playing in it, right? So Korea. They use pings. And one of the interesting things that stands out to me when you use, not just ProView, but if you've ever gotten to play in Korean scrims, or if you've ever gotten to watch them, they ping a fuckload in scrims, whereas it feels like in NA and EU scrims, they don't ping a lot.
No one pings. No
one's pinging.
This is true.
And it almost feels like it's instinctive to the Korean and Chinese teams to ping to communicate things that need not be said. Because it almost feels like having to say them could distract the person from like what's about to happen.
I can see that. That's true. I 100% agree that I don't do this enough myself either. Even though in SoloQ I ping like a madman. I even had Hilly tell me like, you don't ping summoners enough in scrims, but when I play with you in SoloQ, like I know every single summoner used around you.
Yeah.
You know, like I know every single summoner someone used when you're fighting, when you're playing SoloQ, but when you play, like when I play scrims with you don't ping them enough.
Yep.
Well, I think that there's like a connotation of like pinging being like BM in NA.
Yes,
like,
and
people are afraid to ping because they're like, oh shit, you're gonna take it wrong.
Right. Yeah. When I've done coaching for any players at any MMR, especially like Master Plus, etc., they'll say that they're afraid to ping because they don't want the guy to tilt and then just run it down. And it's like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's really strange. But that's also like depends on how you use your pings, you know? Like,
yeah.
I think if you're pinging something obvious and the information you're transmitting is very, like, you can't miss the point of the ping, then that's not happening. And I feel like you learn how to do that as you play the game and actually use pings, you know? Like, when I'm pinging someone roaming, then it's obvious what I'm implying, you know? I'm implying this person is roaming from here. I'm not, like, pinging any of my teammates or anything like that. Or, like, when I ping one of my teammates back, it's obvious I want them to stop fighting, right? And that's what I don't get, is like when people are scared of using pings because people are getting toxic, that's like, what kind of message are you trying to send there? Like,
well, I mean, it just is what it is. Like, I could understand that playing NA solo queue. Like, I think NA is much worse. Like, from playing it in Europe, I actually thought Europe was less toxic than NA because of what I consider toxicity. Like, I don't care if somebody tells me that they're going to slit my mother's throat. Like, that doesn't affect me at all. What affects me is if you actually, like, start trolling my game. That's just my personal view of what I deem as toxic. But like when I was in, but in NA, for example, if I ping that a jungler is ganking, right, and I know a jungler is ganking a certain time, I saw him start bot side, he's playing Lee Sin, he's 3 camping, going top, etc. I ping the red buff when he's on it. I see my top laner has pushed the wave in, but he's still trying to like poke under the turret instead of going toward, and I'm spam pinging the way to the lane. In NA, he's going to die to the gank anyway, and then he's going to ping me 6 times instead. He's going to be like, yeah, like, why aren't you here? Like, you know he's here. You know he's here. Why are you not here? Like, that's the mentality that we play with here. So, like, it doesn't even feel worthwhile in our system.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but, like, I'm going to ask you this question. Have you played lane? Like, have you played a lane, and have you been in that situation where you want to pressure that guy? You feel like you need to because that's the matchup.
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. And this is the problem, is that if you were just like, I pinged you, you shouldn't have fucking gone, shut the fuck up, then you're going into the same, like, you're doing the same thing he is.
Sure.
Like, he's telling you, I want you to be here, but he wasn't good enough to communicate that to you, right? Like, he wasn't able to ping you, like, please come, right? Because this is when I get frustrated, right? This is when I get frustrated. It's like, when I'm pinging you well ahead of time, please counter, I'm coming. Like, I'm pinging assistance, I'm pinging, we can dive this guy, whatever, and my jungler doesn't want to.
But that's the communication through pings that should happen. Like, it should be like me pinging, like,
I agree.
It's like he's on blue, I ping blue. He's on wolves, I ping, or he's on ground, I ping ground, he's on red, I ping red, and then you're pinging assistance. Like, I want to fucking take this fight. Like, that's what should happen. That communication is lost.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is that is fault, that is human error, right? And in my opinion, chalking it up to human error and admitting that you could have, like, and this is where both players need to like admit, okay, I could have been there, but I didn't want to because of this reason. And player B should admit, I wanted you to be here because I can pressure, but I also could have recalled and the game was fine. Right? And that's it. And when you come into issues like that, this is where people have to take responsibility for their gameplay.
Well, I think
end of story.
I think that's where voice comms could actually like come into play, because people, I don't think that the full intention could be like, I think the conversation could happen way earlier, right? So if I'm like, hey, because you obviously play pro games right now. You know what your jungler's pathing is. Yeah. Selfmade tells you, okay, like where he's starting, where he's going to finish, what he's going to look for.
Yeah, and I've died to a level fucking 2 gang.
Of course, sure.
And Selfmade wasn't like, what the fuck? I told you my pathing. Why aren't you here? Like, and I wasn't like, what? He level 2 gang me. Why aren't you countering this shit?
Sure,
like,
exactly. But that's why I feel like the human component of it, like when I'm telling somebody, like, hey, this is what's happening. Like, I'm going to path this other way. Like, you either have to avoid the gank or try to play around it in some way. And if they died it, they're going to be less willing to be like, you stupid motherfucker, why are you on golems? It's like, well, man, it's my matchup. I'm playing Karthus. I need to full clear in this matchup. Like, if I try to contest at least in level 3, it could go really bad for us. I'm afraid of a fight. You can have that communication through voice. So that's why I think voice comm is actually like useful to the game, because there's a better dialogue.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. But the thing is, I'm telling you right now that if you were doing that in all my games that I was playing, right, and I had my bot lane and my jungler talking about this shit, I wouldn't even join voice comms. Do you think I need to hear why, like some whining about why you were there or weren't there, or like your explanation? It's just like, this is how the game is played.
My experience.
And all I expect is, my bad. That's it. Like the guy that fucking died types my bad, and the guy that, like, if you want to, as a jungler, if you want to add on to the fact that that guy admitted that it was his fault to die, because ultimately in this game, when you drop dead, it's your fault. Realistically speaking, you made a decision that led to you dying, and in other words, you are the reason why you died.
Sometimes,
right? Every time.
Not
every time. What? Literally every time you die, you made that decision. I'm not saying that it was a bad one. I'm saying that you made the decision that ended up in you dying.
You can have 0% of the blame on a play and die. Correct?
Sure, but why not take responsibility for the fact that you could have not been there? Why not? Why not entertain yourself in the sense of, you know what? I think it was a good play, and that should have worked. And it would have been if this guy was here. But that's not what happened. So next time, I should consider that might not happen.
Sure, you can consider it. It might not happen, but it'd be such a bad way to view it if you actually started letting that affect your decision making. Like, if you
of course, I'm not saying that you let it affect your decision making. That is making that is allowing yourself to be a worse player. I agree. Okay. You shouldn't do that, but you should entertain the fact that you could have avoided it, right?
Sure.
And in that specific situation, avoiding it would have created a better situation. And this is the mentality that I want people to have when they play. And again, I'm not saying that all of League of Legends is going to have this, but people that actually want to play this game seriously need to start thinking like this. They actually need to have this idea of, all right, my jungler wasn't here. However, I shouldn't have died if he wasn't here, because the information is full time.
Yeah.
I can see you doing the golems. And if I'm watching you do the golems and I decide to contest and die, then I am the one griefing.
Yes.
Right?
I have to be right back. 1 second.
Okay.
Sure.
I think one of the things that he was bringing about, and I'm not sure if you're referring to this too, is like, what if you make, what if there's like a tower dive top with you and your jungler, and if you were given the option, you would always make it 100 out of 100 times. You land all your skill shots, you do everything perfectly, and then you die. But you would opt into that 100 out of 100 times. Is it still your fault that you died if you landed everything and your teammate missed everything?
I mean, let me put it this way. Okay, let me put it this way. Yeah. Okay. You're right. I generalized too much. My bad.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Again, like, if your play is I'm dropping dead here to kill him and then I am 3 waves, then that doesn't necessarily have to be a mistake.
Yeah.
I agree. But you dying was still your decision.
Yes.
That's what I'm like. That was the logic I wanted to add here. Is the fact that you dying was your decision.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it was a bad call necessarily, and perhaps that's how you felt. And I agree that. Sorry if that was.
No,
the case.
I'm clarifying
I agree with
for
you.
Fucking Twitch chat, and
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Like I agree. If people felt like me saying that dying is always a mistake, that's not true, right?
Okay.
Sometimes you're like, okay, like I have to go under the turret here because I'm gonna, like, let's say, you know, I don't know what, you're level 2 and enemy bot lane is level 6 because jungler's been sitting in that bush for I don't know, like 17 minutes. Then that's not, like, you know what I mean? Like at that point you have to make a decision, right? I agree. So my bad if people felt dying was always a mistake. You know, I'm the king of fucking dying for something. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. I die a lot in competitive games. You know, like for example, one of the plays is like when someone is trading sides on the map. Like, is breaking their play on their strong side worth more than my life? Is a question that I ask myself all the time. Right? Like, is it worth for me to take their wave, break their play, and my strong side will get more than their strong side will? However, I'm giving them a kill. Like, is this trade-off worth it? Right? That's a question you have. Like, I ask myself a lot, you know, and oftentimes the answer is yes. Oftentimes the answer is no. And it's a matter of learning this because this is valuable. It is valuable to understand this.
Yeah.
In my opinion, at least.
No,
like, it's valuable.
That makes sense.
It can always be a good play, right? It can be a good play. It doesn't have to be. You know, sometimes I die too often on the weak side. You know, that's true, and those are mistakes.
And I think a lot of the problems that Dom is talking about is ingrained culturally, and it can't be fixed, or it can't be remedied as easy as some of the stuff that I've talked about with him, or you've talked about with him here tonight, or even the stuff that I've talked about with like HotShot yesterday, and Bwipo even, is that at the core of these problems, the region has people that are choosing to not do things that clearly is present in other regions, right? A lot of the problems that are present in NA do not exist in Europe. They don't exist in Korea. They don't exist in Ionia, which is the China server. They are, or not that they don't exist, they exist to a much, much, much lesser extent. And asking for things to come in and fix them, it can be nice, it could help, but it doesn't change the core underlying issue that the server or the region has. And I don't know how to really fix that. Another idea that I had yesterday, I don't know if you saw it at the top of Reddit, was a special, like, private server that is only available to the highest tier of the players, and would only be turned on during certain hours or something. I don't know if that fixes it. I know that helped a lot back in StarCraft days, StarCraft 1 specifically. So if you ended up being one of the best on EU West, EU East, whatever, you would then go to PG Tour, or you'd go to IC Cup. And that would be where you would actually get to see your worth. And everything would be taken a lot more serious there. So, like, that's able to be monitored. Riot can control that if they do that.
If they want to do that.
If they want to do that, right.
Yeah. But again, like, the perspective I'm looking from is not assuming that... I want to assume that it's plausible for this type of solution to be reality, right? Because there's no real reason why these things aren't in place, because I don't believe that you're the first person that suggested this. And I'm sure there's been significant talks about this type of topic. Right. Where this type of thing was suggested and it's still not here. In fact, China has the system, right?
They have the super server.
I believe you need to be a certain MMR to be in that server, right?
You gotta get you have to get Master Plus on any server, I think.
Exactly. So that system exists. However, it's still not used in any other server.
Yes.
Which leads me to believe that server has existed for how long in China?
2 years? Year
Probably.
and a half? I think 2 years. No, so, I don't know how frequently the people use it. To my knowledge, the best of the best still play on Ionia, or they just play on Korea, cross server, with 50, 70 ping.
What I'm saying is that the technology is there, it's been used, and for whatever reason, it is not deemed worthwhile on different servers, on other servers. And that could be, like, again, and here's where, like, you have to use... you have to assume that it's just not worth it, right?
China...
From my perspective?
I think the player base is kind of an interesting thing, because China, for instance, I don't know if you saw this on Reddit, it was like a year or something ago. They had 4,000... hand cherry-picked master tier players just for scouting grounds in China. 4,000.
Sure.
That is fucking unholy. Like 4,000.
Yeah, I know. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of fucking players.
That's a lot of people.
Holy shit. 4,000 master plus Twitch chat. So grandmasters, challengers, etc. that are not professionals or National League players. We don't have that in NA and EU. So With that,
we don't have like 50.
So it might not be worth.
So it
doing
might not.
that.
Right. So now,
and if people want to achieve that, then there's nothing stopping them from organizing that, which is like where the which is why I believe Riot. Exactly. That's where I believe Riot wants to like not take responsibility for this because, you know, and perhaps that's the problem, right? Maybe Riot's just like, not our problem. You guys can make in-houses, for example. I don't know. Yeah. But the point is that, you know,
they stopped that early on, though, in NA. When NA had, like, I believe, a bigger player base, it felt like a bigger player base in terms of, like, active, high-rated, ranked players. They did not allow us, and this was, like, in Season 4, a bunch of pro players wanted to start scheduling in-houses, and we did start playing in-houses, but Riot prevented us from playing in-houses until, I believe, Season 7, Season 8 is when they started allowing it again, because they believed that the experience of SoloQ was to have the goal of like ranking up, and then obviously they put weight on the ladder because if you got high rated, you could go to scouting grounds, etc., and you could be picked up by pro teams potentially. And they wanted people to have the dream of playing the ladder enough that if they got good enough, they could play with other pro players and like fulfill that dream. So this actually was I
don't see how this is mutually exclusive though. Like you can have a simple you could have had a simple rule where you are mandatory to maintain a challenger account, for example, or a master tier account. Right, like any pro player can play in houses, play scrims, and play that much solo queue. They, at some point in their career, they play that much.
They can. They choose
did
not to. I think NA is very gross when it comes to how little some of the players play. Like there was that Reddit thread, right, that went through all the regions, and it showed that like on average NA players play the least by far. It's not even close.
Yeah. Part of that is also queue times, though. You have to also factor that in, is that we have longer queues than other regions.
That's true. That is true.
Significantly.
No, I mean, I'm not blaming anybody for how much they play. Again, I haven't played in that. Like, I haven't played in an NA or anything like that enough to actually understand what is right or wrong with that. So that's not my point. I'm just saying that, you know, given that fact, having a master tier, challenger tier account again, apparently in houses are fine now, right? You're telling me, like, you can do them.
Yeah,
that could be a solution, you know. Yeah, like, I don't think like how many NA streamers are there? Like, there's probably quite a bit, right?
Sure. There's enough. There's enough for sure.
I don't
exactly.
Think
you have this thing called Twitch rivals. You have Twitch rivals, right?
And Twitch rivals is not like only high elo.
That's what I'm saying. But you can, for the sake of streaming high MMR games, make a high MMR Twitch rap. Like, you don't call it Twitch rap, just call it in-houses. But what I'm saying is you can take all the high MMR players that want to play and stream that content. I'm sure people would enjoy that, right? Because it's a combination of all your favorite streamers on top of
pro players
having a high MMR gameplay still, right?
Yes.
So, like, for example, like I watch Adrian Riven, for example. Like, if Adrian Riven were to play in these games, I would be interested to see, like, how does he play in this MMR, right?
Yeah.
And whether you guys decide, you know, One Tricks Open or banned or like Best Champions Open or banned or whatever, like, that's up to you guys, right? Like, that's something that people can do. But is that something that you guys are interested in doing is obviously a different question, right? Because in EU, I'll be honest, when people organize in-houses, what ends up happening is everyone's just like, whatever, I'll just go play SoloQ.
Yes.
That's how I am too. When I get asked for in-house, I'm like, you know, maybe, maybe. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'll just be like, I'd rather just queue up SoloQ and see what happens. For no apparent reason, I'll be honest with you. I just do. I just prefer playing SoloQ.
Well, I mean, I think there's always like the like ladder addiction that so many people have, where they like enjoy like their rank going up and down and potentially becoming rank 1. Like, in-houses don't have that same like fulfilling. Like, if you play a full day of in-houses and you finish your day and you don't have anything to show for it, it's not the same as if you go up 100 LP or if you get rank 1.
I don't disagree with you, except for the fact that, like, when you're doing it all streaming, then the point, like, again, if you're playing purely for the sake of like improving or whatever for the quality of the games, however, for content creators, you get content out of it, right? Which should be some form of like reward, validation. Sure. That's probably the word I'm looking for. Like, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, if the content you get out of that high MMR content at a high quality, that would be your validation, and that's what you can bargain with, right? Like that. Let's say you're in the position where you want to start streaming League again, because I saw you play it today, and you told me a couple just after that. You told me I don't play League anymore. I just host co-streams or whatever.
Yeah. I barely play. I don't play as much as I did before. Like, I was like a 10-hour-a-day player.
Sure, but like, let's say you know, you're actually interested in getting back into streaming high MMR content. This could be a good way of doing it that I can see for the like near future, right? Like, you can do this tomorrow if people agree with you, right? Like, Boy can do this. Everybody that is in that ecosystem, as long as there's enough high MMR players that are interested in doing this, right?
Yep. I don't think that anyone wants to take the burden of the setup. That's what the problem was before. Is like High tried to do it, and then it's so annoying with people canceling, and then you got to find a replacement player for this, and then like it's not an unsolvable problem. It's just that no one wants to actually take the responsibility and the accountability for like, okay, I'm managing all this shit myself.
Right.
Sure. I mean, again, I'm just alluding to a solution that is possible that like you can do immediately. That is basically answering the problem that all these streamers have. Right. That's the problem you have. Is that you're getting griefed.
Twitch Rivals was like a good way to do that in a way. Except like Twitch Rivals becomes like weird.
Well, obviously, there's lower MMR players involved, so it's not.
Well, there was a Twitch Rivals. There was a Twitch Rivals that was only high MMR. That like,
but even then, you know, what is high MMR? You know, there's probably a couple of players that weren't at the same level, right?
I think the lowest players that were picked were like maybe like low master.
Yeah,
so
we're not going to kid ourselves. Someone below master and then like a high challenger player.
Yep.
You don't match those players together. That's not how it works. You know, people people complain about this all the time. I have this in my games. You know, like when you have really high MMR and you get a master tier player and he's laying against a challenger player. That is not a balanced game. No offense to anybody that's not at an MMR or anything like that. It's not about this. It's just the fact that, like, are there enough people at the highest MMR level, are capable of playing at that level that can create a group where you can actually play like this?
Right.
I believe there is, right? So, again, this is just me giving you a solution for something that I would watch, for example. Like, I would consume that content. I would watch you, Adrian Riven, Scrub Noob, whoever that streams.
We played that shit. Out of this. Yeah, we did that pretty much in January. That was the first Twitch Rivals. It had like, so I played with Adrian Riven, Tyler, Metaphor, and High. So it was like decently high MMR. I think the other teams were like every jungler that I played against was like around 1,000 LP. So it was like I was playing against good competition, which was
still five.
Everybody
still 5 leveled them every game.
Not me. Not when you played against me, you didn't. Not when you played against me, you didn't.
Sure. What I'm saying is
all I'm saying.
People were consuming that content, right? Like this was successful, wasn't it? Like was it successful from your perspective?
Not for me. Not for me.
People didn't actually enjoy that content?
I think it's just beneficial to the biggest streamer that's available on each team. So it's like why would for example, I was on Tyler One's team. It's like for Tyler, he was getting 50K viewers. For the rest of us, no one was getting shit for viewers. Like, you know, we're all just like sitting there, like,
I didn't know it worked that way. Oh, fair enough. I just, you know, I figured that's how it would work, right?
I feel like if you're the biggest streamer on your team, like, so for example, I had an option to be a captain. Like, if I was the captain, I think that then I would be getting like the majority of the viewership. Like,
all right. I mean, that makes sense. I'm just saying that this could be a solution. And again, if the answer is we just don't get viewers compared to the guy that set it up or like the biggest guy, then we don't want to do it. That's fair enough.
Well, it's also like people stream different time slots. I mean, it's the same reason why in NA almost no one was streaming into Tyler 1, right? Like Tyler 1 streams, everyone clears the fuck out. It's like, all right, man, like you take all your fucking 50K viewers. I'm gonna be sitting here in the. It's like he gets off 1 a.m. I'm like, all right, I'm turning on the stream. I hit the button. Like I'm here, boys. Like let's go.
Fair enough. I didn't know that's how it worked. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's your job, so you need to be effective at all this stuff.
Okay. I think we gotta move into the next topic. I was gonna bring Malice in for the next one because we were gonna go over coaching.
Are you gonna bring Amazing in as well? Or
do you want to stay for this, Bwipo, or what?
I mean, I'm down to stay. I don't mind.
Right.
I can probably help put my perspective in if that's valuable whatsoever.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna add him. How do I drop him in? One sec. I gotta figure this out. I'm a boomer.
Wait, how old are you, LS? You're not that old, right?
26.
Shut up about fucking being a boomer, right? You make me feel old as shit.
Fuck.
Wait, you know how old I am, LS, or no?
You're 29, right?
Yeah, I turned 30 in 3 months. It's over.
Ah, shit.
It's fucking over.
Fuck. Shit. First up.
Chat, shut the fuck up. Stop spamming boomer at me.
Boomer.
Gentleman.
Yeah, hello. Seb, can you turn on...
Hello.
Ooh, cracking open a cold one.
Could I turn on what? Cam?
Yeah, cam.
Oh, I'm naked. Wait.
What?
Okay.
What the fuck did he say?
He said he was naked.
Jesus. Oh, wait. It auto-filtered you to the left. Okay.
So?
No, because I'd moved my cam. All right. So the next part of the thing that we were going to go into, we were just going to follow the order of what HotShot and I followed yesterday. So we were going to talk about coaching, and infrastructure within teams, because obviously coaching staffs get cycled a lot, and it almost feels like that's the role that has the least turnover out of anything in the last couple of years. Like, Europe obviously has so many new players coming in, and there's so many people in national leagues that are like moving up. Obviously, Academy in North America is a little bit different. But yeah, so Dom, I'll just where do you want to start? Because we talked about this 3 weeks ago. Wait, I'm gonna change the server. Hold on, I'm gonna change it to Korea. 1 sec. That took everyone out. Are we back? All right, we're back. We're good.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay. Like where specifically do you want to like begin with the whole coaching topic? Like, because so I mean, I guess the problem in NA that we've experienced is just like the idea of what constitutes a good coach. Like, we have this weird idea. So this all came from my perspective, from the signing of CLG Chris in season 5. So if you guys aren't familiar with
what?
there was a coach.
Oh, you're not memeing right now.
No,
Like,
no,
what?
I'm not memeing. I'm not memeing. You're not Chris from CLG.
Okay.
Season 5, that was actually Coach Chris, right?
Okay.
So what happened was this was the first season where coaches were in LCS, or like coaches were available to like be on stage and do the draft with you. And in season 5, CLG got a new coach named Coach Chris. He was he had like a degree in education. He was a professional football coach beforehand. And he joined CLG. He gave them like a schedule, like a regimen, whatever. Team ended up winning LCS. And then everyone got in this mentality where we're like, we need coaches that are not like former players. Fuck the game knowledge, all of that. We just need structure. So everyone started hiring like these like football coaches, baseball coaches. We had like Woodbuck for TSM. We had some dude named Randy as our coach. And like, he knew nothing about the game, so they weren't able to monitor everything. And I feel like that was kind of like the downfall of like coaching for NA, is that like people that actually understood the game, former pro players, people that like were analysts at the time, weren't getting the positions. It was all these random people that were applying for jobs from like the education field, where they had degrees in coaching and things like that, or they understood how to theoretically manage player relations. What was lost was when it's hard to manage player relations when you don't actually understand what's happening in the game, to like see what the argument is based on and like kind of understands people's perspectives. So I think that was like the biggest issue that we've had. And even recently, we've been having the same problem where we just keep on getting, you know, coaches with sports backgrounds, and we don't have like people that actually understand the game, like i.e. former pro players, etc. Or people like LS.
Seb, what do you want to, what? Seb, what do you want to say? What the fuck?
Wait, what?
I think I'm.
Is this one of the emotionally unstable boys that you've groomed? LS?
Like,
who is this guy?
any
What is
fucking
this?
groomers in the chat?
Yeah, Dad, what do you want me to say?
Holy shit. It's getting weird. All right.
What the fuck? All right, he's just not going to
Take it
talk.
away.
Bwipo, what is your take on
what
this?
just happened?
What is my take on it?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, it's really hard for a coach to be better, smarter, and be like the whole package in terms of game knowledge compared to a player, right? Like,
Yes.
finding a coach that's smarter and better than me is going to be very difficult.
Well,
Yeah.
then there would just be a player, wouldn't there?
Wait, might not be.
Or-
Might not be.
yeah. Or they would
Maybe
just
I'm
be a
shit.
player.
All right, whatever. Let's entertain the fact that to coach a pro player, you would need a coach that can explain a concept to the player, and show how the game should be played to him and whatnot, right? I don't feel like that's how it should be, right? So I think that the idea of having structure and having someone bring structure to a team is very good, because ultimately the way that I'm going to interact with my teammates is I want to explain how I want to win the game to them, and they want to explain how they want to win the game to me, right?
But
That's
you can have
how
both,
it should
you know?
work.
You can have both.
That's
You
right.
know?
I mean, ideally you have both, but ultimately for me, what is important in a coach is that he can facilitate discussions between me and my teammates. That is what is important. That after a game of scrims, there is someone neutral that can remove us from the game and actually allow us to speak about general ideas, right? Like what I mean by remove us from the game is that the frustrations and what went wrong in that specific scrim or stage game or whatever, the focus is taking away from that, and that we are able to discuss ways of improving further outside of that specific game. Like how do we actually get better, you know? Like what is the solution? All right, we made this misplay, how do we do that better? That is what I think is most important in coaching.
So the thing I talked about with Doublelift is that ideally you have someone so I think that there's different types of coaches. There's like life coaching, there's like personality management coaching, which maybe you lump in with life coaching, and then strategical coaching and analyst, I think, are terms that are very, very misunderstood within the scene, and people give way too much credence to the title alone.
Yes, absolutely.
The title makes no fucking
100%.
sense. I could pull I said this to Doublelift, I said it yesterday on HotShot. I could pull a random guy in from Twitch chat, say, you know what, I'm LEC or LCS coach right now, you're going to be my assistant coach. And all of a sudden, apparently the community and Twitter and Reddit and everyone has this perception that this person is now suddenly, he has so much game knowledge and he must know so much because he's on a team that's winning or he's on a team that's losing or all these other things. And you can find so many things that go against this idea, right? Coaches that maybe at one point in time were very, very successful and then they just fall off a fucking cliff. Well, you can't have it both ways. Like what exactly is going on there in terms of the title? So what I said to Doublelift is that ideally you have someone that can play all roles at a relatively high level. And the Shy actually commented on this in an interview, that a coach need not be as good as the players inside of the game, but should be able to essentially grapple with them. Should be able to do something to a certain level at a high enough level to interact with the professional players, if they're going to be on the strategic component of things. He commented about that. I think Apto commented a pretty similar thing. I think this is very recent. It's within the last few months. Doublelift, I mean, had the clip on the TSM subreddit where he vocalized the same things. I mean, I've always been very vocal that this was my belief of what strategic coaches should do. Most of them can't, right? They're not high bar.
I mean, sure, but for me personally, like the people that I've been successful with, there's one specific person that has coached me for a very long time, and this person basically taught me how to play this game, right? And he's like what? I think he's platinum. Like he can push Diamond X.
Are you talking about LS?
No.
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
I'm not.
Just kidding.
He actually introduced me to LS. His name is Shaves. Nobody knows him. He's no name. Anyway, this guy, I met him on an amateur team, and he just made me entertain the fact that I could play better. He explained to me how I could do it and what I should be doing. He didn't show me. But the fact that he was smart enough to show that to me is what made me believe that this guy was smart. Like, he's smart. I can see that. I don't need him to play against me and feel that he's good enough at the game. I can tell by what he's saying. Mm-hmm. Like, if he explains to me, this is how you should play your wave, these are the reasons why, then I'm going to go ahead and do that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is what coaching should be for me, in my opinion, right? Strategical coaching, that can be either the coach is good enough to show me, like we play 1v1 and you show me what you mean by managing the wave state in a certain way.
Right.
Or you explain it to me in like in a fashion that's so detailed that I can't misunderstand, and that I do it and you comment on it, right? You're like, right, this is what I meant, or no, I think you should play this and that, right? We can agree that either or is fine.
Yes.
As long as it's detailed enough. Like, I don't need the coach to actually like laying it against me to explain how the wave state should be played if he can actually tell me.
What about the point that LS brings up? Now, you can say this yourself because I don't want to misrepresent your argument, but I think that I've heard you say something similar to this, LS, where like if the person does understand it to that level, then why could they not perform it themselves? And if they can't perform it themselves, then there must be something that they're missing in terms of like an idea.
I mean, you can be mechanically bad too, and you can still understand everything, so you can explain it.
But
that's what I think.
Right. You can be mechanically bad, but I think up to a certain point, right? Like, I think we're being really dishonest if you can't, like, for instance, we're being really dishonest on the mechanics necessary to reach Diamond. It's not very high. The mechanics necessary to hit Master Tier is not very high, depending on what champions you're playing, and if you really know what you're talking about and doing, you can go in and you can do them. And I'm not referring to like Korean SoloQ or something where mechanics are a different beast, not only just because of ping, but like the server as well. I'm talking about like NAEU, whatever. There's a limit to that. I think that the coach should be able to go into a game and grapple with the opponent. And they might mess up, like the skill shot, or they might mess up something, but they should bring it to the benefit of the doubt, where the player can say, yeah, I can see that if you did this, that would have made sense, or like, this should be possible. That is devoid of mechanics. If you really know what the fuck is going on, and you commit time to the game. Yeah.
My point on this is that to answer your point, is that I can brute force you to make a mistake.
Yes.
Through mechanics. That is why I think that like the coaching mechanic thing is like, you know, why can't they do that? Is because I'm not going to let them, right? Like if someone's trying to explain me something and I want to prove them a point, I can brute force a trade on them that they're not mechanically proficient enough to answer.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm sure you can do this. Like I'm sure you can do this too, Dom. When you're playing against a diamond player, that you can brute force a trade on the guy that he doesn't know how to answer.
Sure.
Like, and I could miss the point if I wanted to, right? But that's not the idea.
Yeah, but I mean,
this is what happens.
So the way that I see it is like I don't play top lane, right? But for example, I could 1v1. I could do 1v1s to help my top laner in like when I was an LCS player. So I could play into like certain matchups with champions that I'm comfortable on, etc. Obviously, with some champions super foreign to my playstyle, like as somebody who plays junglers, champions that were similar to junglers, things like Renekton, etc. I could play a lane versus Quas and help him understand like where the breaking point is of the matchup and like how hard. Like he could so I think what Ellis is saying is like somebody that's like close enough, like you don't have to be like that good to be able to mechanically match somebody to the point where you can't just monkey me. You can't just walk into the lane and start trading in my fucking wave and just like win the trade regardless because I'm that much of an ape. You know, like
I agree with you. I mean, depends on the matchup, but
it's like okay, yeah.
But even if you get brute force, you can still identify a problem. Like I don't know how many.
I agree, 100%.
I saw Ellis play 1v1s versus Suwon like fucking 4,000 times, and even if Ellis died like 9 out of 10 of them, he could still identify the mistake every time. So eventually he learns and he stops going for them.
Yep, I agree.
But I also think that coaches like. So I have a few friends that's taught me a lot in League or in the past, but they were also really, really high in other games. And they have concepts and let's say they have a I don't know how to say it, but they know how to.
They have like they have like the gaming brain. That's literally what it is.
They have the idea on how stuff should be played and how you should go about doing things, and they can transition that from other games to League.
Yes, they can jump titles, and I talked about this yesterday with HotShot. That Reynad was one of the first people that I ever saw vocalize it or have a deep discussion about it publicly, and he also had it with me in private. It's people that know how to learn, not. They do learn, it's they know how to learn. And that's the most important feature. If you know that, you can jump titles, and you can always ascend to basically the highest tiers. Most people lack that. Basically. Yes.
You know, it's a great example of this that people will fucking meme me for, but somebody that's like a genius at this is actually Dyrus. Dyrus just knows how to learn games. And like any game that he'll play, he'll be like relatively good at. He'll be like relatively like challenger tier in that game, like top 300 or something. He just understands like, what's the road to improvement. Like he's good at identifying what things he needs to get better at to get to that next level, and he's able to like apply it pretty quickly. So if you watch him play a new game, like he'll just be good like pretty quick. And I know that sounds strange because you wouldn't like Dyrus is smart, but just because of like the way he talks, people assume that he's not, but he's actually like super intelligent about like self-criticism and understanding how to improve. So just shout out to him. I
actually got good at video games because of those two people you mentioned. I used to watch Reynad play Hearthstone.
Hell
I used to watch Dyrus a lot. Yeah, I miss Reynad, man. I used to be one of those people that loved Reynad, and I used to watch Dyrus a lot too. So like I'm young enough where I was like 13, 14 watching these streams, and I was climbing the ladder, trying to mimic the ideas, right?
Yeah.
The ideas of how to get better at the game from these games all the way up. Rekful is part of that. I'm a cutie pie. I watched Skara. Like all these people, I was watching all these people when I was a noob. Like when I was like low MMR player, like gold, platinum, diamond. I was watching these people to get to this point. I'm not kidding. You were a part of Dom. Like I was watching Dominate as well. Like just the idea of like understanding. Like okay,
I can tell you were watching me, bro. I saw those finals, bro. I know you were watching me. I'm just kidding.
But I think it's all information that you can grapple. Like honestly, like, this is all stuff that I picked up on from people, and
No.
It's there, you know. It's Googleable. You can actually Google this type of stuff. You can find the content to help you improve what you need to do.
I learned most things I know about League from WoW, actually. So
Actually, same. I played a lot of World of Warcraft before I played League.
Yeah.
Translated
I
very
think
well over.
my friend had like multiple characters in rank 1 for a few years. Then he came to Korea to play League, and he got Master Chief in like 2 months after barely playing it in EU.
Pretty sick.
Yeah, now playing other games definitely. So I originally came from Dota. That's how I got into League, and like the people that taught me a bunch about Dota. Like I don't know if you guys know who Loda is, but he was on Alliance. He won the Dota 2 TI, I think the 3rd TI number 3. And he just like pretty much took me under his wing and just taught me so much about like just the game and how to play. And he, like I don't know, I was just so much younger than everyone at that time that he just made a huge impression on me. Just allowed me to be good.
There's just a very big difference in knowing how to learn than knowing how the game works. Because as soon as something shifts, if you don't know how to learn, then you still have to rely on other people to do it so you can learn from them.
Yes.
Which is always a disadvantage.
Yeah, he groomed me as hard as LS grooms you, Malice.
Oh, I love that. I loved it too.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I loved it too, man. I loved it too.
Amen, brother.
Oh, you never okay, so just a quick sidebar. Ellis and I are going to start like a show where we discuss like, you know, drafting in depth and things like that. And I was thinking about this title. I wanted to run it past both you guys. What do you guys think about grooming the draft? Grooming the draft. I'm telling you, that's a great show name. It's going to be up there.
It's pretty funny.
Thoughts?
It's pretty funny.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Grooming the draft. I like it.
Holy fucking shit.
All right. Ellis, I don't know if you even have a choice at this point, man. We might force this upon you.
Jesus Christ. The fucking wording.
Oh
man. Okay, so I guess going back to this point, so we basically talked about ideally what coaches should be able to do, and I think that the fact that there's no standard for it right now in the industry. Basically, people get into job positions and they try to do their best and whatever, and they do it there. But I think that it also, just due to the way that the industry is working, it makes it really hard for there to be a turnover rate in that position, because that position, from the outside looking in, is full of conjecture, because no one has any idea what's going on. But then that position, I feel like, is more immune to turnover, just because of the nature of it, in most cases, unless all of the players are almost on the same page in dissent against something that's happening.
I mean, honestly, I'm gonna put this point of view out because I don't feel like this is discussed at all. But you have to consider that most people in esports that are coaches or considered coaches aren't actually, I don't want to say of age, but like older, you know, like they're not like the same age and a similar age group, right?
Yep,
sure.
So what ends up happening is that these people, even though they might know what's going on, they lack the communication skills necessary to transmit that. This is where I believe main issue lies, because I don't think that the people that get hired are incompetent necessarily. Some of them might be, sure, but I don't believe that every single team, LEC, LCS, like, you know, out of the 20 teams of only EU and NA right now, that let's say 40 of the coaches' analysis are incompetent straight up. I wouldn't say that, because I don't know. And again, if you guys know and you have this information for a fact that all these analysts and coaches that work there are straight up incompetent, that's fair enough. For me, what I'd rather believe is that they probably don't have the communication skills or a communication system in place where this information is getting transferred over to the players and they're not using all the resources they have. I know this for a fact because even in my team, even in Fnatic, when we play, I am not using 100% of the information that my teammates are capable of sharing to me because of communication issues. I'm not going to say issues because that implies that there's a problem. It's just it could be used much better, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like when you're on a team, like the problem that I have with coaching is that there's no environment where everybody, like the information is a consistent stream between everybody, through everybody, all the time. It's alive or it's not alive. For example, problem exists in scrims, coach gives his input on that specifically, and then the next game he might not have anything to add, right? When usually when you're playing scrims and you're practicing, and even in solo queue, when you play the game, there's always something you can discuss, right?
Yes.
Almost always there's something you can add on. Like, you're a coach, right, Aless? Like, I'm sure that you've coached actually a team, BBQ, you've coached Malice as well, so I'm sure he can add into this. But when you went into reviews, I'm sure that you would always be able to find something. Like, whether that's like an individual thing, perhaps it's not for the whole team, you know, the thing on the side.
Right. The thing that got very frustrating with me, and Malice can attest to this as well as the BBQ players that still live with me, is it got really bad to a point where I had to step in scrims to play against Korean teams and Chinese teams and have the mid laner or the top laner sit with me, or go into a game in Malice's position. I'd play jungle against LCK and LPL teams, and I would speak Korean to them because, you know, they would say something that it's about the English, and then I would, you know, Seb's here. I mean, he can comment on it. It was a very frequent occurrence. I don't think most coaches are going to be able to do that.
I'm not saying, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, the problem that exists there is, again, the communication between players, right? That's where it was born. The fact that they're blaming it on the fact that the jungler isn't speaking the same language is communication, right?
No, they were basically saying that they would feel it wasn't like a language problem. It was the way that Seb would want to do things inside of the game. They would try to say that it was because of language, and so I would do the same things, except I would speak Korean, and they still wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? So it was more trying to get to the
that seems like a very different issue altogether.
Right. But I think that sometimes these problems exist, and they have to be attacked in different ways that isn't just communication. Sure. And I think it has to go into the grappling.
I mean, I mean, me personally, I don't believe that my coach has to step in and play the game for me at any point, or any of my teammates. I think when you reach that point, there's a huge issue, like a huge underlying issue that's no longer like fixable by communication. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. If my coach has to step in to play scrims for one of my teammates for whatever reason, no bueno. Like, as a fellow player, if for whatever reason, let's say the Lemon gets subbed out for LS because I don't fucking know what reason,
maybe you guys.
I'm like Monk, you know. I'm like, what's going on here? You know, like, what's going on?
I mean, it could be for shot calling too. If you don't have anyone that like takes charge or anything.
But like the code, like there's but there's other solutions for that, right? Isn't there?
Well, I think that most of the times I would step in for the mid laner or the top laner would be because I would say like the lane shouldn't go like this, or shouldn't be doing stuff like this inside of laning phase. And no matter how many times we communicated or talked about it, even like doing like live coaching, right? Just wouldn't work. But for some reason it would click if they just sat right next to me and I would play in the scrim. And then they would just go into the next game and apparently execute on it. And it's very weird.
It could have been a respect thing.
That's just like, I don't want to use the word, but I feel like that's incompetence. Like, if you need someone sitting next to you in order to do what you're supposed to be doing, then I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
I'm not. But that's just incompetent. Like, if your coach is telling you you can't do it, like, this is bad, and you can't identify that this is bad until it's proven to you by someone holding your hand and forcing you to do it. It's like you're holding him at gunpoint or what? You're like kind of, right? Like, you're pressuring him. Yes. You're like sitting next to him, looking at him like, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? Of course you're fucking not going to do it because I'm sitting right next to you. You know, that's how I feel about that. That's not what it should be at all. That problem is with the player. There's no way that this is a coaching issue. That is a player problem, 100%. If the player needs that type of pressure from the coach in order to do what he's supposed to do, then it's the player's problem, 100%. I don't even think this is arguable. Like,
well, even if it's the player's problem, if the coach can help him with it, right? There's probably plenty of players that has this. Yeah, but if there's no coach that can help a players like this, then isn't that both?
But then what ends up happening is what we have right now. You have an elitist group of players that are able to do this, that aren't quote-unquote incompetent. Perhaps it's the wrong word. I don't want to insult anybody.
Yeah.
And those are at the top, and then you have everybody else. And that's kind of the system we're living in, no? That's what ends up happening right now. So are you telling me that that's the situation because the players at the bottom need those coaches to step up and magically save them? I don't believe so.
I don't think it has to be just at the bottom. I mean, you could probably transition this to other sports, right? Where coaches can help players unlock things.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I agree, and it's wonderful if you have a coach like that.
There will always be an elite tier, but everyone won't be at the elite tier.
Yeah, but the way I feel is that what you guys are telling me is that like coaches need to be able to drive people into this elite tier, which I agree would be great. that's what we're all looking for in a coach.
Right.
I just don't think that that's necessarily only on the coach, right? Like that's not a coaching problem. That's just a gaming, like that's just an infrastructure thing of like, I don't even know what to call it really. Like what is that? Player problem, coach problem?
I think it's sort of both, right? If the coaches could exist that could get the players to do it, that would fix it. But likewise, if the players were
if there was more players that were at that level, then
that were at that level or had the mindset that didn't need that to take place. But I think that the problem is that the players with the mindset that need that to take place is the overwhelming majority.
Which again, is that a coaching problem? Like again, don't get me wrong, right? There's obviously a demand. Like there's demand for these coaches, and it would be wonderful if there were many.
Yes.
But do we identify that with a coach issue, or do we identify that as if coaches were that good, the overall level of play would be significantly better, which is what we're looking for, right? That is the point of discussion you have when you're discussing coaches, right?
Right.
You're trying to increase the overall level of the league or of competitive League of Legends in general. So is that something that you attribute to being a coach problem, or is that a solution to a problem in our competitive system?
But
because I believe that is a solution to our problem.
Right. So
no, you go.
If the players aren't going to fix it themselves if they've been doing it habitually for years on end. So the only person that could come in as an unbiased like second party would be a coach. Because I don't think the player is going to get out of their way on their own. So then it does become a coaching problem if the only person that is able to go against it, and also the next gen of players is likely to end up being the same, because this has been a constant for so many years, right? So even the newcomers, they're going to rely on this position to do this thing. I don't know why chat is monkaing.
I put a monka.
Oh, okay.
They said I was looking at they're flaming me. That's
if 90 out of this is all completely fictional numbers. If 90 out of 100 players need someone like that in order to experience change, and if the new people coming up need someone like that to experience change, then I mean, is that not then a coaching problem if the people that could help change it don't exist?
I mean, it depends on how you look at it, right? Like, so the coaches that are coaching the people that don't need this are successful or considered successful. And the coaches that are, let's say the same person coaches two teams, and one team has those players and it works out, and one team doesn't and it doesn't work out. Like that happens, right? I'm sure that's happened in the past where a coach was successful with a certain team and unsuccessful with another. Because of the players and the details of the interactions with them. So again, I think for sure, I 100% agree with you that if coaches were able to do this consistently, that the overall level of the of our competitive system would improve everywhere. If this was the case, 100%.
And
naturally,
I guess my stance on this is that the natural trajectory of let's identify the player as a car. The natural trajectory that the car is going down is gonna end up at this problem. Like a very small percentage will be elite level, self-inspired, driven players that can learn on their own accord and not require these things. But the mass majority will crash. So,
and I think the perspective, like the difference in perspective, is you're a coach, so this is what you feel like should be improved for other coaches because you feel like you're capable of doing this, right?
Yes.
Right, because this is your standard.
Yes.
Right?
But there's also
my standard is the other side, right? My standard is like if that's a player.
You want players.
I feel like yes, I want players to be able to do that. I don't want to hear players be like, I need someone to sit next to me and show me how to do it in order to achieve the result when you could do it yourself, right? Like if someone is willing to explain something to you, you need to be willing to do that, right? Because that's like the problem that you explained is how I feel, right? Is that your mid laner and your top laner were playing the lane in a way where you were explaining them how to play it, and they would refuse to. However, when you sat next to them and showed them how to play it and expressly made them make those decisions, you proved that it worked.
Yes. I think ideally this is like something that should be done by player coaches. This is like what a player coach should be, and then like I think the job of the overall coach should be completely different though.
Like life coaching.
I agree with that.
Yes,
I agree with that.
Not even life coach. Like I think somebody like I guess a good example for me would be like somebody like Grabs who. He's mainly focused on like bringing the whole thing together. That's what I think the main job of like the team coach is taking everyone's viewpoint and making, some types of final decisions on things, but then also just trying to make sure that just facilitating the communication between the players, facilitating the strategy between the players, like all that type of stuff. Like that's what I think the head coach should be doing, or maybe not head coach, but whoever's in charge of strategic coaching, the person on stage that's contributing to draft, etc. So At least that's like how I view like the main job of a coach in the context of what we have right now compared to like player coaching, which is kind of what I think we're talking about here.
So I'm gonna give a bit of a not a morbid. Well, actually, see, I don't know how to describe this. If from the second that a player enters the competitive scene, they're headed down a path that they're going to end up needing this person to exist in order to get better, right? If that's the natural trajectory of all of them, the fact that the coach, like, is there a way to change the natural trajectory from the get-go? Is there a way to actually make it so that's not the case? I would say no, using all the history of esports across so many different titles. This tends to be the case. Then should not the focus be on finding the people that can come in and prevent the car from crashing? And I would liken this to, I don't even know, diseases or something, or like defects that can happen when you're born, but you can get fixed, or something like that. Like, obviously it would be ideal if the problem wouldn't start from birth, but if it is present and you can fix it after it's happened, I think that there's a demand for people that can fix it after it's happened.
Sure, and I don't disagree with you. And my point on this, my main take on this, and why I don't necessarily agree with you, is that what you're telling me is that anybody reaching a certain point with the necessary help can go elite, right? I
don't agree everyone can be super elite, no.
Okay, I'm just saying that, like, you want them to be directed into the path of elite, right? Like, you want to basically groom elite players, right?
No, I don't think that's possible. I want to help. Well, I want to help, obviously, but I don't think everyone can be super elite, right?
Sure, and I'm saying, like, they need to be super elite, but you want to push them in that direction, right?
Yeah.
At least show them how to be, and whether they will be or not is up to them, right?
Teaching them how to teach others would be the end.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Right, and that's what you're looking at.
Right.
And I think that's a very reasonable thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be great if that were the case.
The thing is, if you have the skills necessary to actually become this type of coach and you're able to, like, make this effect on players, what motivator do you have to actually do it? Does it have to just come within? Because, like, these people are not people that are player coaches, for example, don't get fucking paid well, and the people that would be great player coaches that are normally like ex-players, etc., would rather probably play for like a shitty LCS team or become a streamer or do academy. Like, there's so many other options than becoming that player coach. Like, what would make people want to do that? Or like, why would somebody choose to go down that path when there's like other things that would be more lucrative for them personally in terms of fame and money, etc.? Like, I guess this would be mainly directed to CLS. Like, why? Like,
I think there's something. I think there's something nice in, like, I think we could look at this in a lot of different ways. Like, why do you, or there's videos on this on YouTube. Something you enjoy versus something that gives you more money, right? Maybe the person actually enjoys going out of their way to try to learn all 5 roles, play it and whatnot at an adequate level, and then helping prop others up. Maybe that's actually something that they want to do, even if it's not the most lucrative. I think there's been many players even that have taken pay cuts to be a part of different teams in order to have a better environment or have more success, right? That's the thing that's happened. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that it's always just about money or fame. I think that that's going to be a case-by-case basis.
Mm-hmm. So I guess, would you be willing to, like, do, like, let's say right now where your position, right? You have like successful stream going.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest co-streamers, you do LCK, etc. If there was an option to like go become a player coach and you thought that, you know, people were motivated, etc., would you be willing to like drop this to pursue that?
That's something I struggle with even right now, at this point in time, because I have current standing offers, but obviously I'm casting LCK, and my stream is like, you know, it's really, really nice, and then I sort of think about the fact that, like, I would have to stop so much, and then is it something that I really want to jump into? and do again, because like BBQ, Seb could tell you, was a nightmare experience. Like yeah, that was my workload and my stress was exorbitant, and I mean he detailed it in a Reddit post at one point. I would like to do it.
I remember that Reddit post.
Yeah, but
banger.
things have to be there. For instance, I don't think I would ever do like what I did with BBQ again. I just don't think I would do that. I don't think I would just join a random team anymore. I think that a lot of stuff would have to be on the same page, and then I'm willing to lose 200, 300,000 or something in order to chase after something that's meaningful to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be even more than that.
It would, yeah, of course.
Realistically, so that's the problem. Is that like, I mean, I dealt with this in like season 8 where I didn't feel like streaming was fulfilling, and at the time I still felt like good enough to either become a pro player or like coach. Like I was passionate about the competitive scene, but just being able to like drop that much just felt not worth it. It just felt like such a big risk that it like wasn't possible to be done for me. And I know that other streamers that have been in similar positions struggle with the same type of thing. I mean, one of the people that has actually given up like the guaranteed income to play again was like Rush, right? Like when he was originally a 20K viewer streamer in season 6, dropped all of it to just, you know, be on KT's second team and build towards like that improvement, etc.
That's a good example of it, right? That it's not always about the money and the fame. It can also just be about like what you want to do and like what you're willing to go through.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's so hard for people to do. I mean, it's such like a big jump, and the upside is not going to be there most of the time. Obviously, if you get lucky, if you get lucky, it's the dream, right? You go back. You coach a team, the team becomes, you know, the next fucking G2, you're in world finals winning MSI, like that type of shit.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're on top of the world. But it's just the chance that doesn't happen is more likely.
I mean, that's assuming that you're in a position where you're a big streamer and whatnot. I think like
assuming
the normal coach. The normal coach is just.
But I think that those are the people that would be like a good player coach. I think that somebody like Rush would be a super smart guy to bounce off ideas. If you ever spoken to Rush, I know he plays in like a kind of troll way, so you would think like, oh, this guy would be
smart.
like.
I know he's smart. I can tell how he plays the game.
He is extremely smart. I've had like in-depth conversations about him. I know that if any jungler talked to him, they would enjoy the experience of just taking his perspective in. Except for probably Malice, because you know he just hates Lee Sin. I don't know his reasons, but like just like anyone else, you know, like would probably. Really like appreciate this type of dialogue. It's just I just don't think that like the people that are actually able to do it, because the players that have the knowledge to actually get to like the top of the scene as a player, I think that those are the people that would make the best coaches. Like let's say Bwipo in a couple of years, right?
Yeah,
like he wanted to coach somebody top lane.
Yes,
and he's gonna have the fame and etc. Go ahead.
So I said this to Bwipo at dinner 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember this. That I said to him that I think that his career will be very long if he wants it to be, and that he can go into coaching or he can go into casting or anything, right? Because he has the personality for it and he has the brain for it, right? To look at lots of angles and not just nice. Jesus.
My veins too big.
So I think that there are. So I said to HotShot yesterday, and I've said to many people behind the scenes.
So for clarity, you were grooming him 2 years ago.
Jesus, not with that.
He was grooming me.
Okay, all right, okay. Never mind.
Okay. I think he disowned me after a certain event.
But I think that the next gen of players will probably be the ones that start doing the things that we're talking about right now in terms of player coaching. Once they end up stopping. Because I think that the previous gen or people, what?
We have Mythic.
But the gen of players that are retiring are going to move into it, and then I think the next gen will be the one that really it's like everywhere.
I think Mythic is doing a very good job.
Yeah,
I think Mythic is actually doing a very, very good job of coaching, and it's not talked about enough when it comes to coaching in general. But I think this guy is really smart, and he's actually made this team work very well.
Yeah, I mean, based on what I've heard from other players,
but it's not the norm yet, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I agree.
He was always kind of like a coach for the teams he was on, from at least what I've heard from players. I mean, when you talk to Perks, he credits Mithy a lot with like teaching him so much about the game and being able to like elevate his performance so much. So like, I guess that he's like a special cause where he always had this like coaching gene inside of him.
Coaching gene.
Yeah, he's got the coaching gene, man.
Seb, what's your take on all this?
Well, no, I agree to an extent. Yeah, I spaced out a little bit.
Okay, God fucking bless. All right.
I mean, I think at least for NA, like the division that would need to be taken is like, instead of, because there has to be some incentive to match like what you're getting, and people just don't view like player coaches and things like that as super important, right? Like you're on teams where I don't know how much Dignitas's coach is getting fucking paid, but I doubt he's getting paid a quarter of what fucking Huni's getting paid, right? Like Huni was getting paid $2.3 million for a 2-year contract, right? And that's where like all the money is going. So I feel like the teams would have to reorganize their budget to contribute more and make it a more desirable job to become a player coach for people to really take that step. That's what I think needs to be done, at least from the organizational side.
Actually, something I think that is important that not too many teams are doing is what was it? Was it Samsung White, Samsung Blue back in the day? Is when you have two really good teams in the same house, you can have people of the same role sitting beside each other, watching them play and giving like info to each other, and having someone you can constantly discuss the game with, that you can grow with.
Yeah,
I think this is why Samsung slaughtered Worlds back in, what was it, season 4, season 5?
Season four.
Yeah, because
I can actually add to this.
Yeah,
I can add to this. I was a sub.
Yeah. Take it away.
I mean, this is what I did when I was learning League. The guy I came to Korea with, we sat beside each other and we played, and we just looked at each other playing. Like, you can do this here, you can do this here. You don't have to do this.
Right, and that's a form of coaching in itself. That is a form
so
of
you
coaching.
don't necessarily need a player coach. You can have two people in the same role. Like most people have academy teams now. Like, why don't you take the time to, instead of just fucking playing your 400 8-rock solo queue game, you sit beside him and you just watch him play and you give him info instead of the fucking cesspool.
I think that there's a problem with like respect between teams, but this is actually something. It's good that you bring up the academy teams, because that was something that when I talked to Jack yesterday on the Crackdown, is he said that Licorice and Fudge actually did so much of this together, and that's why like you see Licorice, he doesn't play that many solo queue games. He spends his time 1v1ing Fudge, talking about matchups, watching Fudge play solo queue, and just like having that type of interaction, which like breeds like just more and more talent. Like both of them gain so much from that. So just wanted to like interject. Think about a point.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously shared a role with Soaz for a year. That actually helped me a lot. Like, I have told Mithy and Youngbuck 2 years in a row now that if they could find a sub that they feel like would be able to contribute to my gameplay and I could contribute to theirs, that I would be very happy with that. But the problem that exists in this is that sharing actual practice time is more difficult because the players on your team need to feel like this player is skilled enough in order to play, right? Because let's say I'm playing and, you know, my mid laner gets subbed out for somebody because my mid laner wants to improve, but this mid laner is noticeably worse than Nemesis, then that will affect me in my practice and the way I feel about that, right?
Right.
And this is the problem that exists.
I don't think you necessarily have to do this for your lane, though. I like sitting beside mid laners and top laners and ADs to see what they do, what their thought process is, and why they go for it. And if you
this is more about scrims.
Yeah.
Right. In solo queue, for sure. Like, if someone is playing solo queue on their own, absolutely. Like, you can just sit next to them.
I love doing that.
Well, like the more information you gather, the more you know.
Yeah,
it helps you too.
There's minor things that you pick up. Like, it's such a minor example, but I remember in season 5, I would sit behind Phoenix play, and Phoenix was like solo queue monster. And like one of the things I picked up on so quickly was just like understanding the exact value of how much burning somebody's WEQ on Azir was. Just like how much a jungle gank, just if you burn one Azir WEQ away, like how much that just fucking ruins a lane, and like how much you can take away from that. And that's just like a small example of just things that you can take away, where it's like, hey, just a small interaction that I can do in this lane is so valuable in terms of it, because normally, like as a jungler, if you're not burning a flash, if you're not getting a kill, etc., it doesn't feel as worthwhile, especially back in those days. I mean, the game was more primitive, etc. You could like really pinpoint what pressure really is. And I think that this is where like maybe Amazing could help you guys a little bit, just understanding the pressure of an early gank. Like, when are you going to get the fucking pressure ganks into your gameplay? That's what we really need.
I actually remember when LS was preaching on pressure ganks, by the way. I'm just saying, I remember when he was preaching about pressure ganks all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if a jungler walks into your lane and take half the laner's like just walks past mid lane, just goes from like crab to crab, and it takes half your mid laner's health, then well, fuck, you can't lane anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
That's
The enemy freezes. Fuck, just go next.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second half was troll, but the first point was completely serious.
Yeah.
By the way, chat.
Okay.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anyone?
I'm fine.
All right, Seb. Anything?
I'm good.
Okay. Bwipo. Anything?
Believe it or not, I'm okay.
All right, great.
I mean, I can keep going, but I think we got the point across. That's what matters.
Okay. I guess we can end here and I'll just wrap up stream and stuff then.
All right.
That's me.
All right. Thanks everyone that joined and talked and whatnot.
Thanks for the talk.
All right. Bye. See you
Okay.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Rapstar's best day to eat.